Chapter 194. Clang. The scabbard knocked away her opponent's blade. Lin Muyu thrust her longsword forward, and the dragon soul sword, along with the scabbard, pierced towards Ouyang Jingtian. The battle energy around the scabbard formed a spiral of flame energy. Ouyang Jingtian was shocked. He hurriedly moved his sword and shook his wrist. Suddenly, the sword twisted like a poisonous snake and twisted around the dragon soul sword. Twisting sword technique. In an instant, Lin Muyu's battle chi was like a clay ox entering the sea. Naturally, Lin Muyu's attack was ineffective. However, he wasn't in a hurry. He suddenly loosened his grip and the dragon spirit sword was seized by Ouyang Jingtian's sword. At the same time, Lin Muyu's fist was surrounded by battle chi as he punched his opponent's shoulder. Ouyang Jingtian hurriedly turned his body to dodge. At the same time, he swept his sword horizontally. Hua! Lin Muyu bent her body and dodged the attack. At the same time, she raised her finger, and lightning flashed between her finger and the dragon spirit sword. The seized dragon spirit sword spun around as if it had a mind of its own and heavily stabbed Ouyang Jingtian's back with its scabbard attached. Bang! Ouyang Jingtian had suffered a heavy blow. How could he withstand it? Blood was already flowing out of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at the dragon's spiritual sword that had returned to Lin Muyu's hand. I lost. He stood still and said. Imperial Guard Lin Muyu is worthy of her reputation. I, Ouyang Jingtian, am convinced. But, is it the imperial sword technique? Lin Muyu nodded. It is indeed a kind of imperial sword technique. Thank you for letting me win. Thank you for your advice. After the winner was decided, Lin Muyu's name was immediately placed in the top 24. When she returned to the viewing platform, Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, and the others congratulated her. Although she was only in the top 24, Lin Muyu had already made a name for herself in public. There wasn't much suspense in the following matches. Zhen Feng, Yuan Lian Ling Feng, and the other elites of the imperial capital easily won their matches one after another. Not long after, the names of 24 people were listed on the wooden board. They were painted with golden paint, and looked to be sparkling under the sunlight. The matches were still going on. There were fewer and fewer people left in the selection area of the viewing platform. There were only 24 people left, and many of them were familiar with each other. Zhen Feng turned a blind eye to Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest. His resentment was too deep. On the other hand, Tang Bin from the Seven Seas Tang sect was able to chat with Zhen Feng, Yuan Lian, and the rest. It was as if they were all graduates from the imperial capital's Ares College, and could be considered classmates. Yuan Lian held a thin sword in his hand, a faint smile on his face. Young Lord Tang's Firefox seal has already reached the 7th layer. This is truly worthy of celebration. It seems that the future leader of the Seven Seas Tang sect will be none other than young Lord Tang. Tang Bin smiled. You flatter me, Major General Yuan. I, Tang Bin, am not worthy. I only hope to be in the top 10 of this tournament. With the cultivation of the 7th level of the Firefox seal, you will definitely be in the top 10. Young master need not worry, ha? Ling Feng, who was at the side, had a tinge of worry as he said. This year's sword dueling tournament is not going to be simple. Let's see how the next round goes. Once they meet Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Chu Huaying, and Lin Muyu, these 4 troublesome fellows, I'm afraid it will not be easy for anyone to win. Young Duke Zhenfeng, what do you think? Zhen Feng's expression was calm, and he said, I'll just do my best. As for the outcome, let the heavens decide. Hey, young Duke has a good cultivation base. However, I heard that when you were a deacon in the Divine Temple, you once sparred with Lin Muyu and the outcome was not decided. It seems that Lin Muyu does have some ability. It was clear that Zhen Feng was at a disadvantage in that sparring match. In an instant, Ling Feng's words caused Zhen Feng's face to turn ashen. He snorted. That Lin Muyu is just an opportunistic piece of trash. Just wait and see. Heh, we are naturally waiting to watch a good show. Oh right, I heard that young Duke's elder sister, the beauty ranked 3rd on the beauty list, Cheng Xiang, has recently been in close contact with one of the Imperial Guards, Chu Huaying. It seems that the Divine Marquis residence also values the status of the Imperial Guards, and wants a good marriage? Ling Feng said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. In an instant, Zhen Feng was infuriated. He suddenly pulled out half of his sword and shouted, "Ling Feng, if you dare to say another word, I will cut off your tongue and eat it with wine. Do you believe me? Who does Chu Huaying think he is? How can a lowly commoner like him be worthy of my elder sister? My elder sister is just bewitched. After some time, she will naturally realize that Chu Huaying is not worthy of her." "Is that so?" Ling Feng laughed and cupped his fists. "I misspoke just now. I hope young Duke can forgive me." While Zhen Feng, Ling Feng, Tang Bin and the others were chatting happily, Chu Huaying, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, Qin Yan and the others were listening from afar. Their voices were too loud. It was hard not to hear them. Feng Jixing wiped his wind cutter blade and said with a faint smile, "The Divine Marquis residence, the Protector General's residence and the Stabilizing General's residence have been fighting openly and secretly in the capital. It is rare for these people to be able to talk together. How hypocritical." As he spoke, Feng Jixing raised his head to look at Chu Huaying and said, "Do you really like Zhenxiang?" Chu Huaying was stunned and said, "Miss Zhenxiang's talent and appearance have indeed moved my heart. Of course I really like her. Why will General Feng object to us? Although, I also know that it will be difficult." Feng Jixing smiled. "Life is short, and it's not easy to meet a woman who can move your heart. Since you like her, you should be courageous enough to pursue her. As your friend, I will naturally support you. However, the relationship between the Divine Marquis residence and the Royal Guards is very tense. I'm afraid this path will not be easy." Chu Huaying's expression dimmed. "I know." Feng Jixing smiled and said, "What do you guys think about old Chu and Zhenxiang?" Qin Lei said, "I don't understand matters between men and women." Qin Yan said, "Elder brother doesn't understand, and I don't want to understand." Feng Jixing was speechless. What do you think?" Lin Muyu laid on the cold stone steps and said slowly, "Just like what brother Feng Jixing said, if you like someone, you should courageously pursue them. Don't let yourself regret it. However, brother Chu Huaying really needs to protect himself. Zheng Yifan is ruthless. Who knows what he will do?" Chu Huaying nodded. "Yes, I know what I am doing." At this time, the second round of matchups had already been decided. There were a total of 12 groups, and this time, it was considered a tit for tat. Several groups were actually strong opponents. Feng Jixing versus Tang Bin, Lin Muyu versus Ling Feng, Chu Huaying versus Zhen Feng. As for Qin Lei and Qin Yan, they were quite lucky. The opponents they faced were not too strong, and some had not even stepped into the heavenly realm. After all, it was not easy to reach the heavenly realm. There were not many people who could step into the heavenly realm before the age of 35. Therefore, in the eyes of others, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing were all rare geniuses. Lifting his sword, Feng Jixing patted the dust off his battle robe and smiled. "I'm going." "Be careful, Tang Bin's Firefox seal is very powerful," Chu Huaying warned. "Don't worry, he is not my opponent." Feng Jixing's confidence was bordering on arrogance, but no one doubted his arrogance. He was the youngest commander in the entire empire, and he was in charge of the capital's 30,000 imperial guards and close to 20,000 scattered troops. His own strength was unquestionable. On the other hand, Tang Bin had a calm expression. Standing on the tournament stage, he cupped his fists and smiled. Tang Bin has experienced Commander Feng Jixing's brilliant moves. I didn't expect that we would meet so early in this year's sword duel tournament. What a coincidence. Feng Jixing smiled slightly. "Please show mercy, young Master Tang Bin. Don't let me lose too badly." "You must be joking. Come on." "All right." Feng Jixing held his sword horizontally, and with a wolf howl, the purple electric flame wolf climbed onto his shoulder. The thunder and lightning caused by his martial soul poured into the sword, and his battle robe immediately fluttered. In addition to his sharp eyebrows and starry eyes, many girls in the capital went crazy and screamed before he even made a move. Tang Bin still fought with his bare fists. He was proficient in the Firefox seal palm technique, so naturally, he would not be afraid of any sword or saber. Here it comes. Feng Jixing took the initiative to attack. With a swing of the wind cutter sword, the wind suddenly rose, and with the power of the law of wind, it was a swift slash, desert gale. Tang Bin did not dare to underestimate it. He took half a step back and opened his left palm. Flames surged, and a seal appeared on his palm. He shouted, "Light seal!" The flames and the gale intersected and exploded. Feng Jixing and Tang Bin each took a few steps back. After stabilizing their breath, they rushed to attack again. Feng Jixing swept across the air and quickly gathered his battle chi. The battle chi turned into scorching hot sand that lingered around the sword, and a very fast attack once again blasted toward his opponent. Hot sand scorching gold. Tang Bin's expression did not change. He waved his palms, and the Firefox seal appeared on his palm again. He raised both palms and launched the third Firefox seal, scorching flame seal. Hong! The raging flames quickly engulfed the front, and Feng Jixing brandished his sword and rushed out of the flames. The hot sand scorching gold slashed heavily on the opponent's palm seal, and quickly broke it. Feng Jixing ignored the flames on his cloak. His whole body was raging with lightning, and he suddenly slashed down from above. It was the fourth style of his self-created wind-walking saber technique, Wild Thunder Saber. Tang Bin looked up at the sky, and the calmness on his face finally showed some fluctuations. He could feel how powerful and overbearing Feng Jixing's saber was. He opened his palm and directly skipped the 5th level of the Firefox seal, and directly used the 6th level, God Concentration seal. In an instant, the golden light shone brightly. Tang Bin raised his palm and blasted out like a divine oracle. Boom! The collision of energy in the air formed an impact, and it directly blew the group of nobles on the viewing platform until they let out sharp cries. In the end, under the palm of the God Concentration seal, a little blood flowed out from the corner of Feng Jixing's mouth. But his body was in the air, and he didn't land. He directly urged his battle energy, and the purple electric flame wolf howled. He raised the saber with both hands, and immediately, a fiend godstar actually appeared behind him. His battle energy was so strong that it was a little scary. Oh my god! Qin Yan was flabbergasted. When did Feng Jixing cultivate to this level? Qin Lei squinted his eyes. This is the 8th style of his self-created wind-walking saber technique, Devouring Demonic Saber. I've experienced this move before. It's really F*King powerful. It directly hit me until I vomited blood. In the arena, Tang Bin didn't feel good. Seeing that Feng Jixing's tyrannical saber was about to land, he could only brace himself and face it. Flames lingered in his palm, and he directly used his strongest move, 5 Chi Seal. Immediately, the 5 Chi of fate in the world crazily surged towards Tang Bin. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, they mutually reinforced and restrained each other. They grew and multiplied endlessly, and turned into a palm force that soared into the sky. Bam! In the air, flames and lightning interweaved together, and a violent wind almost engulfed the entire battling platform. In an instant, the flames were extinguished, and Feng Jixing floated down to the ground. Half of the white robe behind him was burned. He slapped out the flames, and his expression was very calm as he said indifferently, "Did I win?" Puffed. Tang Bin vomited a mouthful of fresh blood, and the ground around him was filled with crisscrossed saber marks. He swayed on the spot, cupped his fists and said with a trembling voice, "Commander Feng Jixing's cultivation is indeed extraordinary. Tang Bin loses wholeheartedly. Thank you for letting me win. I'll treat young Master Tang Bin to a drink later. Okay." Chapter 195. When Tang Bin walked off the stage, he could not hide the desolation on his face. His handsome body seemed to have become much more dispirited. The only person sent by the 7 Sea Cities Tang sect was stopped outside the top 12. Perhaps only Tang Bin himself knew how much burden he had to shoulder. If he wanted to blame something, he could only blame the heavens for being unfair, and placing him in the same group as Feng Jixing. Although Feng Jixing was slightly injured, his complexion was much better than Tang Bin's. He walked off the stage without a change in expression. Facing the congratulations of Chu Huaying, Lin Muyu, and the others, he said frankly, "If it wasn't for Ayu's dream of the peak that helped me break through and step into the heavenly state stage 2, I'm afraid the outcome would have been hard to say. The power of the Firefox Seal stage 7 is truly amazing." Chu Huaying nodded and said, "Next, it's up to you. Ling Feng is the son of the State General Ling Nantian. His father, Ling Nantian, is an imperial general and also a heavenly emperor. Under his father's guidance, Ling Feng can be said to be like father like son. The Ling family's swordsmanship has always been famous for its speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness. Furthermore, Ling Feng is good at hiding his strength and rarely fights, so you must be careful. And got it. Lin Muyu slowly walked down the viewing platform with the dragon's spirit sword in hand. In the distance, Ling Feng also stepped onto the stage with a faint smile on his face and a mysterious grade level 2 sword in hand. Although it was not as good as the dragon spirit sword, it was enough to compete. However, Lin Muyu's greatest chance of winning was that he was now at the second heavenly state, while Ling Feng was only at the first heavenly state. As long as his swordsmanship did not lose out too much, he would naturally be able to win. Ling Feng hugged the sword in his arms and did not bow. He smiled and said, Lin Muyu, I heard that your imperial sword technique is amazing. It just so happens that my Ling family's inherited sword manual is famous for close combat. Today, close combat swordsmanship against swordsmanship, interesting. Lin Muyu secretly frowned. This Ling Feng was indeed extremely arrogant. This kind of arrogance was even better than Jin Feng's arrogance. It seemed that the state general had really spoiled this son. Ling Feng gently pushed the scabbard with his thumb, and the long sword in his hand was already unsheathed. He tossed the scabbard aside, and the long sword turned into 3 sharp sabers that slashed over. Lin Muyu also pushed the scabbard, pulled out the dragon spirit sword and faced him head-on. Her wrist gently blocked 3 times, blocking all of Ling Feng's attacks. At the same time, she lifted her combat boots and kicked heavily. What? Ling Feng didn't expect Lin Muyu's close combat swordsmanship to be so good. He raised his foot to meet her attack. Pung! Lin Muyu retreated, but Ling Feng's douqi circled around his combat boots. Using a skillful force, he channeled the force into the ground. With a turn of his body, he launched an attack from the side. With a swing of his longsword, he launched 3 lightning-fast attacks. In the air, he shouted in a low voice, Yin-Yang triple layer. With a low roar, Ling Feng released his martial soul. It was the image of a giant flame beast that lingered around his shoulders. The power of his martial soul was infused into the blade of the sword, causing each of the 3 sword attacks to be very powerful. Lin Muyu had a deep understanding of how powerful it was, but the sudden attack also caught her off guard. She could only quickly summon the wall of the gourd. A golden light flashed, and the wall of the gourd surrounded her body, forcibly blocking the opponent's attack. Pung pung pung. 3 consecutive sword attacks actually directly split open the black tortoise shell. With 1 successful attack, she immediately unleashed her douqi and kicked the wall of the gourd. Pung! Lin Muyu took 3 steps back, and her face was full of shock. She had actually suffered such a big loss in the first exchange of blows. This Ling Feng's family's martial arts were indeed impressive. No wonder Ling Nantian could become a high-ranking state general. Just as Chu Huaying said, this Ling Feng in front of her was definitely not here to give away points. He might even take away the qualification to advance to the top 8 from her hands. Hee. After a series of consecutive attacks, Ling Feng's aura was calm, and a faint milky white douqi lingered around his body. He smiled and said, How is it? My Ling family's martial soul is a 2nd-grade martial soul. Flaming Xieji. It is the soul of a legendary ancient beast. It is not something that a mere 10-grade gourd martial soul can compare to. Lady Lin Muyu, you are an expert from the Holy Temple and one of the Imperial Guards. You can also be called a pillar of the Empire. It is not shameful for you to admit defeat now, and you can also protect your reputation. He spoke extremely calmly, as if all of this was natural. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. She gently flipped her wrist, and the dragon spirit sword made a faint sword sound. She smiled and said, Thank you for your kindness, young general. However, we have not yet decided the winner and the loser. It is shameful to admit defeat so early. All right. Then I will beat you until you kneel and beg for mercy. Ling Feng sneered. In the next moment, he leaped forward again, and his douqi turned into wind. The longsword flipped in the wind, and with a sudden whistling sound, the gale directly rushed forward, making it difficult to open one's eyes. However, the force of the blade seemed to be able to pierce through one's skin. This Ling Feng was really too sharp. It seemed that Ling Feng had been biding his time, and had never sparred with Feng Jixing, Chu Huaying and the others. It was probably because of the Gilded Dragon Talisman for this sword battle tournament. The Gilded Dragon Talisman was a dragon talisman that could command 10,000 troops of the Empire. It was indeed very valuable. Anyone would want to obtain this Gilded Dragon Talisman to increase their status and power in the army. Not to mention the wind. How could Lin Muyu lose to him? She opened one hand, and the dragon spirit sword left her hand. However, the power of the laws of wind in the surroundings instantly surged, turning into an even more tyrannical hurricane that rushed towards Ling Feng. Using the wind to control the sword, Lin Muyu spread her 5 fingers, and her douqi exploded. Thousands of wind elemental forces turned into blades that pierced towards Ling Feng. Almost every wind blade was like a real sword, and it was impossible to defend against. Ling Feng was stunned, and he almost couldn't open his eyes. He hurriedly bent down and shouted, "Xieji Fire Shield!" Buzz! Ling Feng's martial soul roared, and his douqi turned into a fiery red shield in front of him. It seemed that his flaming Xieji martial soul also had defensive skills. However, the number of skills was definitely not as many as Lin Muyu's. Bang bang bang. The wind blades bombarded the fiery red shield one after another, and the shield became thinner and thinner. Just as the energy of the wind to control the sword was depleted, Ling Feng opened his eyes and saw Lin Muyu rushing towards him. Her fists were covered in flames, and they landed on the Xieji fire shield. Bang! The fire shield was instantly shattered, and Ling Feng's qi and blood were in turmoil. He quickly retreated, but before he had time to catch his breath, Lin Muyu opened her palm from afar. She held a long sword that was spinning at high speed in her hand, and rushed over. Using the fire to control the sword, Ling Feng was stunned. He did not even think about it, and almost instinctively swept his long sword horizontally. Vigorous fighting aura actually turned into layers of qi armor that followed the blade of the sword. His ears rippled as he shouted, "Sweeping sword!" Lin Muyu was amazed. The Ling family's swordsmanship was indeed impressive. They could actually turn an attack into a defense. But could this kind of defense really block the power of the dragon flame spiral break? Obviously not. Bang! The dragon spirit sword went straight and instantly penetrated Ling Feng's sword sweep defense. Ling Feng was so shocked that his face turned pale. He hurriedly put the long sword in front of him to block. As a result, the high-speed spinning dragon spirit sword pierced Ling Feng's long sword with a ding-ding-ding sound. In less than half a second, Ling Feng's long sword was directly shattered. This long sword could be considered to have protected its owner. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the sword that was broken but Ling Feng's throat. However, the dragon spirit sword's momentum did not stop. It still carried the spiral true dragon flame, and slammed toward Ling Feng's throat. Just when Ling Feng was about to close his eyes and wait for death, there was suddenly a paw sound. The dragon spirit sword's hilt was grabbed. Lin Muyu giggled, and stopped the dragon spirit sword's momentum. The blade was less than a centimeter away from Ling Feng's throat. She smiled and said, "Now does this count as my victory?" Ling Feng was scared out of his wits. How would he dare to show off? After all, the participants of this sword battle meet had to sign a life or death agreement. Even if Lin Muyu took the opportunity to kill him, his father would not be able to pursue the matter. He could only nod and say, "Lady Lin Muyu's swordsmanship is extraordinary. I, Ling Feng, have already lost." Hua. Lin Muyu withdrew her long sword, cupped her fists and said, "Thank you for letting me win." Ling Feng also retracted his arrogant attitude. He cupped his fists and said, "Thank you, Lady Lin Muyu, for your guidance. Ling Feng has lost, and you have won." When Ling Feng walked off the stage, a round of applause sounded from the viewing platform. It was from Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Even Qin Jin was nodding his head with a look of approval on his face. Lin Muyu, the godson of the Celestial Emperor, did not disappoint him. Be it in terms of cultivation or character, she had far surpassed Ling Feng. Lin Muyu walked off the stage and quietly waited for the next match. After a few matches, it was time for the most crucial match. Chu Huayin versus Zhen Fang. This match was very complicated, and Chu Huayin was in a difficult position. After all, Zhenfang was Zhenxiang's younger brother. If he won, he would be letting Zhenxiang down. The Divine Marquis residents had also made ample preparations for the sword battle meet. Zhenfang was the wager of the Divine Marquis residents. If Zhenfang lost, Zhen Yifan would not look good either. However, if Chu Huayin lost, it would be a disgrace to the royal guards and the royal family. Chu Huayin stood up majestically. His clear eyes looked towards the stage in the distance. That was his dream. Feng Jixing sat on the cold stone steps and smiled. Surname Chu, if you use the star-plucking finger, you have about a 50% chance of winning against Zhenfang. If you don't use it, then you will definitely lose. I heard that Zhenfang has also consumed Dream of the Extreme Peak and stepped into the second heavenly realm. He passed down all his skills to Zheng Yifan. Just do as you see fit. Chu Huayin's expression was calm. I will strive to win. All right. On the viewing platform, Zheng Yifan squinted his eyes and said plainly, Feng Er, your opponent is Chu Huayin. He is not an opponent to be underestimated. Chu Huayin's star-plucking finger was inherited from a hermit master. The power of his finger is so strong that it can even penetrate the armor of battle qi. Now that Chu Huayin has stepped into the second heavenly realm, if you can't defeat him with force, then use your wits. Yes, Lord Father. Zheng Fang held his long sword and smiled. Don't worry, I will definitely defeat this trash. I will also let sister know that trash cannot be the son-in-law of the Zheng family. Zhen Xiang frowned slightly. There was no expression on her pretty face. She only said plainly, brother, just be careful. Zheng Fang wanted to say something but stopped. He knew that Zhen Xiang's words were full of deep meaning. Chapter 196. The cold wind rustled his battle robe, and the ends of Chu Huayin's long hair fluttered in the wind. He carried his sword on his back, as if he didn't intend to fight with his sword. His right hand hung low, and fighting aura surrounded his fingertips. His body glowed with a faint purple light, and his martial soul, the sable, was about to appear. Zhenfang held a long and thin sword, and his expression was fierce as he sneered. Stop, Chu Huayin. Although you're a member of the royal guard, you should know that there's a huge difference in status between you and my sister. You're just a lowly noble, and you don't even have a title of nobility. How are you worthy of my sister? I advise you to rein in your horse before it's too late. You won't make a huge mistake. Chu Huayin's gaze was like water, and his voice was extremely calm as he said, There's a difference in status between people, but there shouldn't be a difference in character. Young Duke, although Zhenxiang comes from a rich and powerful family, Chu Huayin is confident that with my strength, I can let her live a good life. I'll protect her for the rest of her life and give her happiness. Zhenfang said angrily, You want to give my sister happiness? Why don't you look in the mirror? Chu Huayin, you lowly bastard. Since you're so stubborn, don't blame me for being impolite. Today, only one of us can walk off the stage alive. Is that so? Chu Huayin smiled and said, Then I'll have to ask you to teach me. Buzz. Zhenfang thrust his sword forward, stepping on his martial soul, the glazed pagoda. The blade of his sword was surrounded by sharp sword aura, and it was obvious that he was an expert swordsman from the way he raised his sword. The sword aura instantly spread out, and it didn't look like a single attack. Instead, it looked like thousands of pear blossoms had bloomed in the air. Almost all of Chu Huayin's acupoints were within the range of the sword aura. The strength of Zhenfang's strike was boosted by the glazed pagoda, so it naturally couldn't be underestimated. Not to mention that Zhenfang had already stepped into the second level of the heavenly realm, so the ruthlessness of this strike was obvious. Just as Chu Huayin retreated to the edge of the martial arts arena, he suddenly leaped up and left Zhenfang's attack range. His battle energy surged in midair, and the next moment, he launched an attack from midair. His palms turned into fingers and instantly released thousands of star-picking fingers. It was as if thousands of stars were descending from the sky. The magnificence of his moves was indeed rare. Golden Bell Shield. Zhenfang spun around and stood on the ground, but he still activated his martial soul's skill. A golden barrier appeared around his body, and Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger caused golden ripples to appear on the golden barrier. Just as his body was about to fall, Zhenfang rushed over with his sword in hand. A sword light flashed, and a ruthless sword shot into the sky. Whoosh! Battle energy gathered in his palms, and Chu Huaying's body suddenly spun in a spiral, perfectly dodging Zhenfang's sword energy. He spun around and landed on the ground, shouting, "Golden snake coiling!" His movement technique was extremely mysterious. Just as Feng Jixing had said, no one knew who Chu Huaying's master was. However, just based on his skills alone, it was enough for him to stand proudly on the mainland. In fact, Feng Jixing had once said that he would rather face Qin Lei than Chu Huaying's tricky and magnificent moves. This was enough to show how extraordinary Chu Huaying's cultivation was. However, just as Chu Huaying landed on the ground with the golden snake coiling, Zhenfang suddenly launched another attack. His sword spun in the air, and countless sword energies raged towards Chu Huaying. Myriad sword technique. This was a technique that used sword energy to control one's sword. It wasn't very rare, but Zhenfang's move was as swift as a gust of wind and lightning. Furthermore, the timing was very exquisite. He launched his attack the moment Chu Huaying landed on the ground. At this moment, Chu Huaying needed half a second to recover his battle energy, which was also when he was at his weakest. Pfft! A wisp of blood spurted out from Chu Huaying's shoulder. Following that, more and more blood spurted out. In the blink of an eye, his chest had already been pierced through by 4 to 5 holes. Although they weren't serious injuries, he looked very miserable. On the viewing platform, Zhenxiang suddenly stood up. Her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with shock and worry. "Lord Chu, Zhenxiang." Zhenfang frowned and said, "Sit down. Don't forget that his opponent is your younger brother. You are a member of the Zhenfang family, so you should have the pride of a Zhenfang family member. How can you lose your composure for a mere imperial guard?" "Father." Zhenxiang slowly sat down, but her gaze didn't leave Chu Huaying. She bit her red lips, and a trace of pain appeared on her face. She said, "I only hope that Father can fulfill our wish. Other than Chu Huaying, Zhenxiang will never fall in love with any other man." "Is that so?" Zhenfang faintly smiled. He raised his head and leisurely said, "Love and hate gather and disperse. In the endless flow of time, what does it count for? One day, you will understand this truth." Zhenxiang suddenly lowered her head and looked at the ground. She faintly smiled and said, "I would rather choose not to understand this truth." "You?" Zhenfang angrily glared at his own daughter. However, he suddenly sighed and said, "Father has spoiled you since you were young. Whatever you want, I will give you. However, this is the only thing that I can't let you do as you please. If it was someone else, even if they were born in a poor family, I would have nothing to say. It's fine as long as you like them. But this Chu Huaying, he is Feng Jixing and Qin Yan's man. The grudge between him and the Divine Marquis Mansion is simply irreconcilable. Qin Lei can't wait to kill Father in anger. Do you really want to consign Father to eternal damnation?" Zhenxiang was speechless. She raised her head and looked at the arena again. Chu Huaying's handsome figure had already launched a counterattack. The battle qi in his body had turned into starlight and surrounded his body. His fingers were like butterflies flying in the air, shooting out beams of starlight. This star-plucking finger, as the name suggested, could pluck stars to injure people. These beams of starlight bombarded Zhenfang, making it almost impossible for him to get close. After fighting for a long time, Zhenfang had already fallen into a disadvantageous position. Perhaps Chu Huaying's injuries looked very miserable, but only Zhenfang himself knew how miserable his situation was. Many of the major acupoints in his body had been sealed by Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger. Even the strength to hold his sword seemed to be a little strained, let alone to use the imperial sword technique. Pfft! Another swift and fierce star-plucking finger directly pierced through Zhenfang's Holy Temple battle robe and battle armor. His Holy Temple deacon's golden insignia instantly shattered and rolled on the ground. Zhenfang didn't even look at the Holy Temple insignia. Instead, he forcibly gathered his true qi and leaped up to counterattack. His long sword was like a poisonous snake as it pierced towards Chu Huaying's dantian. Was he trying to destroy Chu Huaying's energy qi? For a cultivator, There was probably nothing more important than the energy sea. Chu Huaying was slightly angered. His left hand suddenly turned into a palm, and a palm descended from the sky. He shouted, "Moon imprint palm." Boom. The force of the palm descended from the sky and directly landed on Zhenfang's back, blasting him to the ground along with his sword. His face even heavily collided with the hard stone floor, causing blood to flow, and it was a tragic sight to behold. "Let's stop here," Chu Huaying said lightly. "Young Duke, you have already lost. There is no need to struggle anymore. Just admit defeat." I. Zhenfang's face was full of dejection and regret. Tears swirled in his eyes. As the young Duke of the Divine Ho residence, and one of the 12 deacons of the Holy Temple, he actually lost so miserably. Furthermore, he didn't lose to experts like Feng Jixing or Qin Lei. Instead, he lost to a nameless royal guard. How could he endure such humiliation? Chu Huaying. Zhenfang raised his head and looked at Chu Huaying. He said softly, "If you really want to marry my sister, then listen to me." Chu Huaying was slightly stunned. Zhenxiang was his only weakness other than Chu Yao. Once he heard that he had a chance to be with the person he loved, he lost his ability to judge. He squatted down and asked, "Young Duke, do you have any ideas?" "Of course, hehe." Just as Chu Huaying was very close, Zhenfang suddenly reached out and grabbed Chu Huaying's collar. The long sword in his right hand pierced into Chu Huaying's dantian at lightning speed. Blood splattered, but it was only a superficial wound. After all, Chu Huaying's battle aura armor had not been broken. The longsword cut a long wound on his abdomen and blood flowed out. Chu Huaying was furious. He raised his hand and slammed it directly on Zhenfang's abdomen. It was also the location of his Qi Si. A powerful moon reflection palm landed. Boom! Blood splattered from Zhenfang's dantian as if it had exploded. At this moment, his Qi Si had been destroyed. "Chu Huaying, how dare you?" Zheng Yifan stood up abruptly. His figure flashed, and like a goshawk he swooped towards the martial arts arena. He raised his palm and attacked from above. How could Chu Huaying withstand an attack that was filled with Saint Realm dark force? He even gave up on defending himself. He closed his eyes and said with a faint smile, "I, Chu Huaying, have a clear conscience." At this moment, another figure attacked like lightning. Flames soared into the sky and a huge fire cauldron blocked in front of Chu Huaying. It was Fire Cauldron Chu Chu. Boom! The flames exploded. Chu Chu and Zhenfang retreated a few steps after their palms collided. Zhenfang also fell from the sky and landed beside Zhenfang. "Marquis, everyone in the sword battle tournament has to sign a life and death agreement." Young noble Marquis launched a sneak attack first. "It's not Chu Huaying's fault. I hope Marquis will understand and not vent his anger on Chu Huaying." Chu Chu cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Young noble Marquis' Qi Si being destroyed is the will of the heavens. My condolences." Zhenfang shouted angrily and glared at Chu Chu. However, he did not flare up. He did not have the confidence to win against Chu Chu. Zhenfang turned around and hugged Zhenfang. He checked his injuries and found that his Qi Si had completely leaked out. Zhenfang's cultivation was also destroyed. The battle energy stored in his body had all returned to heaven and earth. Zhenfang's eyes were closed and he fainted. He did not know anything. "Why?" Zhenfang trembled and roared. "Heaven and earth are unfair. Why are they treating me like this?" Chapter 197. "Brother Chu, shall we go down?" Lin Muyu walked up the stage and held on to Chu Huai's arm as she walked down the stage shakily. Chu Huai was in a daze. Although he won, it was a Pyrrhic victory. His physical injuries were nothing compared to his mental injuries. He had accidentally destroyed Zhenfang's Qi Si. Since then, he had formed a deep hatred with the Divine Marquis residence. His relationship with Zhenxiang seemed even more impossible. Chu Huai didn't even dare to look in Zhenxiang's direction. When they returned to the viewing platform, Lin Muyu comforted him. "It's not your fault, don't feel guilty." "That's right, it was that Zhenfang who launched a sneak attack first. How shameless." Qin Lei rubbed his palms together and said, "This is the Zetian Palace. Who does Zhenfang think he is? How dare he try to kill you? Well done. A despicable person like Zhenfang should have his qi destroyed and his dragon tendons broken. Let's see if he can still be so arrogant after that. Feng Jixing actually understood Chu Huai the best. He sighed and said, Brother Chu, there's no need to despair. There's always a way out. Maybe there'll be a day when you'll see the light. I hope so. Chu Huai's face was pale as he sat there dejectedly. At this moment, the Emperor Qin Jin personally walked down the viewing platform and comforted him. Xinqing, don't be too sad. Chu Huai accidentally injured Zhenfang. It's not his fault. I will order the people from the Spiritual Medicine Division to search for famous doctors and elixirs. They will definitely be able to heal Zhenfang's qi. Zhenfang's expression was sorrowful. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Your Majesty, for your mercy. I thank you on behalf of my son. Qin Jin nodded and said, Come, confer Zhenfang the title of Count Shenwei and the title of Eastern Suppression General. He will officially become one of the 13 counts of the empire. This title will be passed down from generation to generation. Also, grant him a luxurious residence in the outskirts of Lanyan City and 200,000 Jinin coins. Thank you, Your Majesty. Zhenfang cupped his fists and bowed, but his eyes were filled with sorrow. He said, Come, send the young duke to the Spiritual Medicine Division for treatment. A group of Shenwei battalion soldiers immediately carried Zhenfang to receive treatment. Zhenfang bowed to the Emperor Qin Jin again and left hurriedly. Zheng Yifan accompanied Zheng Fang on the horse carriage as it traveled along Tongtian Street. Zheng Yifan's face was ashen. Beside him, the 1,000-man commander of the Divine Might Battalion, Sikong Nan, was galloping madly on his horse. He had a look of resentment on his face as he said, Chu Huaiqiang took the opportunity to destroy the young noble's sea of qi. He did it on purpose. Damn it, the emperor bestowed the young noble with so many titles, mansions and coins, but he didn't give the young noble any military power. Marquis. How can the divine Marquis residents tolerate such humiliation? Then what do you want? Zheng Yifan's eyes shone brightly as he said, Speak. Why don't we? Sikong Nan cupped his fists and said, Why don't we immediately gather the Divine Might Battalion and send a letter to the commanders of the Tianshu Province, Songnan Province, and Earth Star Province, asking them to lead their troops and attack the imperial capital? The military strength of the commanders is almost 200,000, but the imperial capital only has 30,000 imperial guards. Even with the addition of the royal guards and the patrolling troops, there are no more than 50,000 people. We can definitely break the city in half a month, then. Sikong Nan became excited as he spoke, but when he met Zheng Yifan's cold gaze, he immediately trembled and said, Marquis, did I say something wrong? Zheng Yifan said angrily, Sikong Nan, remember this. I, Zheng Yifan, was conferred the title of Divine Marquis by the current emperor, Qin Jin. I, Zheng Yifan, will forever be the Divine Marquis of the Qin Empire. Whoever wants to replace His Majesty will have to step over my dead body. From now on, if I hear you say such disgraceful words again, don't blame me for escorting you into the imperial city and handing you over to Xiangyu of the military police battalion. Marquis, Sikong Nan shuddered and said, I won't dare to do it again. Humph. Zheng Yifan lowered his head and looked at Zheng Fang, who was frowning, then looked up at the sky thoughtfully. He sighed, as if he had aged a lot in just a short while. On the viewing platform, the sword duel competition continued until noon. Finally, the final 12 winners were decided, and the final champion would be decided among these 12 people. The next competition would be held in the afternoon, and the emperor would personally entertain the 12 winners at Zetian Palace. At noon, a golden cauldron was set up, filled with exquisite food. Many of the food was presented by the other 11 provinces as tributes, such as fresh fruits from Lingnan, bear paws from Lingdong Province, wild cloud deer meat from Tongtian Province, swans from Yinzhong Province, and 7 core begonia from Qihai City. When the musicians rang the chimes, they also announced the start of the banquet. There were groups of palace maids, and the courtiers were respectfully kneeling at the side, waiting for their orders. Even the pouring of wine was done by someone else. Lin Muyu sat in the middle of Feng Jixing and Chu Huayin, very quiet. He was not very used to this kind of occasion, because the scene in front of him was proof of a saying, the bell rings and the cauldron eats. The life of the emperor's family was really too luxurious. Even if Lin Muyu was not the kind of guardian who helped the world, he still felt a little guilty eating these things. Come. Qin Jin raised his silver cup and said with a smile, "My subjects, please drink this cup of wine. I wish that my subjects will be able to obtain a good ranking in the sword duel competition in the afternoon. Come." The emperor downed his cup in one gulp. Lin Muyu and the others did not dare to be negligent, and they all drank their cups one by one. Xiaoyin? Qin Jin looked at his precious daughter and signaled with his eyes. Qin Yin immediately stood up and raised her cup of wine. She smiled and said, "Xiaoyin once again offers a toast to all of you. I wish that you all will obtain a good result." She was the future successor of the empire, and the 12 people present were all outstanding talents that the empire would have to rely on in the future. This was also the biggest reason why Qin Jin asked his daughter to offer a toast. In reality, Qin Jin was using this opportunity to groom his daughter into an important courtier in the future, and he had put in a lot of effort. After that, Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone. Everyone was overwhelmed by the favor, but when Qin Yin came in front of Lin Muyu, she smiled mischievously and said, "Brother Yu, don't drink so much." Lin Muyu looked at her flushed face in annoyance and said, "You're the one who should drink less. Look at you, you're already a little drunk." Qin Yin giggled, and her bright red face was like the sunset glow. She was indescribably beautiful. She smiled and said, "I'm fine, but you can't get drunk. Otherwise, you'll lose the sword duel tournament in the afternoon." "Don't worry, I'll give it my all." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Yeah, Xiaoyin wishes that brother Yu takes first place in advance." Qin Yin refilled her cup again and said with a smile, "Come brother Yu, why don't you accompany Xiaoyin for another drink?" "Yeah." Lin Muyu drank another cup. This action, however, caused Yuan Lian and the other disciples of the aristocratic families to be resentful and unhappy. Qin Yin offered a toast to everyone, but she only drank one more cup with Lin Muyu. She even sat on the ground and chatted happily with him. This kind of affection made them extremely jealous, but they had nothing to say. After all, everyone knew that Lin Muyu was the emperor's godson. It was only natural for him to be so intimate with Qin Yin. In the afternoon, Qin Yin was already tipsy. Her little face was flushed as she sat on the viewing platform. She looked at the practice platform from afar and waited for the next round of sparring. There were only 12 people left. It could be said that all of them were fierce tigers. However, the grouping was a little strange. The 12 people were actually divided into 2 groups of 16 to determine the top 8. However, this also meant that 4 people would have no fights. Very quickly, the grouping was decided. Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and Feng Jixing were all lucky to have no fights. Feng Jixing was so happy that he didn't have to fight and directly advanced to the top 8. Lin Muyu was also very happy. It was best that they didn't have to fight. They could conserve their strength. The consumption of battle qi in the morning was already very serious. Their next opponents were all experts, so they had to give it their all. The 4 matches ended very quickly. The 2 brothers, Qin Lei and Qin Yan, won smoothly. In addition, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Morongzhou also advanced to the top 8. At this point, there were only 8 names left on the gilded wooden board of the sword contest tournament. They were Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, Lin Muyu, Yuan Lian, Lin Changqing, and Morongzhou. Lin Changqing and Morongzhou were all generals of the empire's provinces. They had fought hard in the army when they were young. After so many years, their cultivation had improved, so they also qualified to participate in the sword contest tournament. Very quickly, the unit quickly listed the matchups of the top 8. Feng Jixing versus Lin Changqing, Yuan Lian versus Qin Lei, Lin Muyu versus Qin Yan, Morongzhou versus Chu Huayin. "I actually met Big Brother Lin Muyu." Qin Yan revealed a dispirited expression and said, "How can I be his match? Sigh, I thought that I could meet Lin Changqing or Yuan Lian. At least I could get into the top 4. Qin Lei smiled and said, "Yan, it's already not easy for you to enter the top 8. After all, you are only 18 years old. Everyone here is older than you. Think about it, if you were to cultivate for another 7 to 8 years, who among us would still be your match? Qin Yan, on the other hand, was delighted. And Big Brother is right. This kid really didn't know how to be humble at all. The first match, Feng Jixing versus Lin Changqing. Both of them were experts who used the saber. Furthermore, they were also commanders of a region. They had struggled in the army for many years and refined a set of saber arts for killing. It was just that Feng Jixing's saber arts were more skilled and overbearing. Furthermore, his own cultivation also surpassed Lin Changqing's. Hence, after several dozen rounds, Lin Changqing abandoned his saber and admitted defeat. The second match, Yuan Lian versus Qin Lei. The son of the country protecting General Wuxia faced off against the eldest son of Prince Yining. But the disparity in strength between the two was too great. In less than 10 rounds, Yuan Lian sustained injuries and was defeated. The might of Qin Lei's 7-layered god-binding shackles was too tyrannical. Yuan Lian practically adopted defensive tactics from the start of the battle, but he continued to defend until the end of his defeat. The third match, Lin Muyu versus Qin Yan. Even though they were opponents, the relationship between the two was pretty good. Lin Muyu wielded the dragon spirit sword, while Qin Yan wielded the fire serpent spear. The two of them stepped onto the high platform side by side, immediately causing a wave of cheers. Due to Lin Muyu's identity as the emperor's adopted son, he seemed to have already nurtured quite a number of female fans. On the viewing platform, there were at least a dozen or so noble girls waving their delicate arms and shouting, "Lord Lin Muyu, do your best." Pa! Tang Xiaoxi's teacup landed heavily on the table. Her face was unhappy, and her beautiful eyes carried disdain as she said, "Humph, so what if these girls know Mu? To actually cheer for Mu like this? So infuriating." Qin giggled. "Xiaoxi is so petty." I. Tang Xiaoxi pouted her small mouth, but was unwilling to admit that she was petty. Her twin peaks rose and fell angrily as she said, "Xiaoyin is also bullying me. Don't tell me you're happy that those girls are cheering for Mu." Qin Yan's beautiful eyes were like water. She shook her head and said with a smile, "No, I'll be very happy if they cheer for Big Brother you. But after I ascend the throne, I'll cut the salary of their fathers by 30%. Tang Xiaoxi's face was full of respect, as expected of Xiaoyin. Chapter 198. Clang. Under the violent collision of the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan almost couldn't hold on to the fire serpent spear. However, he was also considered to have outstanding talent, and actually rolled out smoothly. The fire serpent spear transformed into a fire serpent that swallowed towards Lin Muyu's legs. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He quickly turned and retreated a few steps, stabbing the long sword into the ground with one hand. With a loud shout, he summoned the wall of the bottle gourd. The black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall rose from the ground, directly dispersing Qin Yan's attack. Stepping forward, Lin Muyu quickly slashed out 3 times, causing Qin Yan to continuously retreat. The dragon scale armor on his body also rapidly dissipated. After fighting for over 30 rounds, the speed at which Qin Yan's battle chi increased was already far inferior to Lin Muyu's. Hence, he didn't delay any longer and straightforwardly stabbed the fire serpent spear into the ground. He cupped his fists and said, "Big Brother Lin Muyu, I admit defeat. You haven't even used that mysterious power and can already defeat Ayan." "Ha! Thanks for letting me win, Ayan." Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and smiled. The mysterious power that Qin Yan spoke of was actually the 7 planets' profound energy. Many people knew that Lin Muyu possessed a mysterious martial art, but no one knew what it was called. Hence, it caused him to become increasingly mysterious. Advanced to the semi-finals. Carrying the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan walked down the stage shoulder to shoulder with Qin Yan. Looking at his fire serpent spear, it was already filled with densely packed tiny cuts. He couldn't help but say with heartache, "What sword did Big Brother Lin Muyu use? It's so domineering, it actually chipped my fire serpent spear." This fire serpent spear is a profound grade 2 treasure. Royal Father specially found this weapon for me from the western regions. "No problem, just find a blacksmith to repair it." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and consoled. "All right, Qin Yan was still somewhat desolate. After all, he was a competitive young man. Especially in such a grand competition like the Sword Duel Assembly, it was truly a pity to lose. At this moment, Chu Huaimian stood up. His body swayed slightly and he frowned, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Old Chu, can you still fight?" Feng Jixing said worriedly. "Your injuries are a little heavy. It's already bandaged." Chu Huaiying gritted his teeth and said, "It's all right. I've prepared for so long for the Sword Duel Conference. I must go up and defeat Morongzhou. I'll make him laugh at my Imperial Guard for having no one else." And all right then. Morongzhou, 34 years old this year, was the captaincy of the border garrison of Heaven's Pivot Province and the general of the North. He was well versed in spear techniques, and was known as the spear god of Heaven's Pivot Province. It was said that he was invincible when it came to riding on horseback. He once defeated 7 northern desert generals in a row, forging a lifetime of glory for him. It seemed that because of these experiences, Morongzhou became arrogant. He even declared that he would challenge the Imperial Guards in the capital city one by one to see if there was anyone in the capital city who could be his match. Furthermore, Morongzhou was very talented. Before he was 40, he had already reached Heaven Realm's second heaven. He had reached Heaven Realm's second heaven half a year earlier than Chu Huayin. Chu Huayin stepped onto the martial arts arena step by step. His footsteps were slightly serious. He was indeed heavily injured, but he couldn't lose his dignity as the commander of the Dragon Guards. He held onto his long sword and stood majestically in the wind. He looked like an inviolable divine statue. Morongzhou held an iron spear in his hand. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Chu Huayin, you have proven that you are a very strong person by fighting Xianfang. However, I, Morongzhou, am not willing to bully someone who is injured. I think you should just admit defeat. It's not embarrassing to lose to me, Morongzhou. Otherwise, after you're injured, your skills will be greatly reduced. Do you think you can defeat me?" Chu Huayin's smile was very bright. "The premise of an unfair victory is to be able to win. Do you think you can defeat me? I heard that you really want to challenge the 2 commanders, Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. It just so happens that I have a nickname in the Imperial Guard called Touchstone. If you want to challenge the 2 commanders, then you have to defeat me first. Otherwise, you don't have the right to challenge them. Is that so? In that case, I'll accept your invitation." Just as he finished speaking, Morongzhou's iron spear suddenly stabbed towards him. Chu Huayin hurriedly raised his long sword to block it. However, Morongzhou's spear had a soft force. The tip of the spear tilted slightly, causing a flower of blood to bloom on Chu Huayin's shoulder. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The power of the collision caused Chu Huayin to retreat several steps. He quickly abandoned his long sword and turned his palms into fingers. Rays of starlight surrounded him. Just as Morongzhou approached him with his iron spear, Chu Huayin raised his hand and pointed. His battle energy turned into starlight and shot towards Morongzhou's forehead. Ha! Morongzhou was stunned for a moment, and the qi armor between his eyebrows had already been shattered. He hurriedly flipped over and fell to the ground to avoid the second and third attacks. Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger left deep holes on the stone floor. It was evident that Chu Huaying's battle energy was very strong. "You've gone too far." Morongzhou rolled and crawled in a sorry state. Finally, he found an opportunity to jump up and sweep his spear towards Chu Huayin's calf. However, Morongzhou didn't expect Chu Huayin to be so desperate. He forcefully condensed his battle energy and rooted his calf's center of gravity on the ground. With a bang, he was hit by the spearhead, causing blood to flow out. However, Chu Huayin used the opportunity to injure his calf, and his fingers moved like butterflies. Countless starlight condensed from battle energy fell down and directly destroyed Morongzhou's battle energy armor. In the blink of an eye, Morongzhou was already covered in injuries. Fortunately, Chu Huayin only used 30% of his strength. Otherwise, this round of star-plucking finger would have been enough to kill Morongzhou on the spot. Morongzhou, who was covered in blood, slowly stood up. Just as he was about to attack with his iron spear, he saw Chu Huayin's palm facing him. Chu Huayin didn't move an inch. A bright moon appeared in the air. The moonprint palm could take his life at any moment. I admit defeat. Morongzhou was dejected. If he didn't admit defeat, he would have to pay with his life. Chu Huayin was already determined to get into the top 4. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing hurried forward and helped the injured Chu Huayin off the stage. Chu Huayin felt a wave of nausea and dizziness. When he looked into the distance, he realized that Zhenxiang's seat was already empty. He couldn't help but feel lonely. "Old Chu, you idiot. Do you want to die?" Feng Jixing said in a low voice. Chu Huayin smiled and said, "His Majesty promised that the top 4 of the sword duel tournament would receive the title of a second-class noble. Our Chu clan is a commoner. I must change this situation so that Yao won't be looked down upon by anyone in the future." "Idiot," Feng Jixing said indifferently. Lin Muyu supported Chu Huayin's shoulder and said, "Quickly apply the medicine. Otherwise, your leg might be crippled." Morongzhou didn't hold back at all. "Okay." Immediately, she sat at the side of the stage and took off Chu Huayin's combat boots. His leg was already bruised and bloody. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out some medicine and personally applied it on Chu Huayin. At this point, the top 4 of the sword duel tournament had already been decided. They were Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin. They were also the 4 brothers who were the closest to each other. Soon, the eunuch announced the final lineup. Lin Muyu versus Qin Lei, Feng Jixing versus Chu Huayin. Finally, the 4 brothers were going to fight it out. Chu Huayin lay on the cold stone steps and looked at the sky. He smiled and said, "This year's sword duel tournament is really brilliant. It's probably the most tragic one in the history of the sword duel tournament." Qin Lei said, "It's also the most powerful one. The top 4 are all at level 2 of the Heaven Realm. Such a lineup. The Empire hasn't seen such a thing in hundreds of years. Otherwise, His Majesty wouldn't be so happy." Chu Huayin tilted his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He said, "Brother Feng, you got lucky this time. I'm all in the final battle, and I really don't have the strength to fight anymore." Feng Jixing said happily, "Doesn't this mean that I, Feng, have directly advanced to the competition for first place?" "Yes. Haha, I'll definitely treat you to a drink later. I'll drink the best wine in Lanyan City." "Thanks." Then the top 4 competition became the battle between Qin Lei and Lin Muyu. Qin Lei propped the thunder cutter blade on the ground and said with a smile, It's our turn. Should we go all out or hold back?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Don't go all out, we can talk about it." "All right then." Qin Lei was also a straightforward person. He patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, "As the big brother, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, once the victor is decided, I'll stop." "And me too." The 2 of them went up the stage together. Qin Lei slowly swung his long blade and said with a smile, Why don't we decide the victor in one move? How about it? We'll use our strongest move. Whoever wins and who loses will be decided in an instant. This will save us from fighting for too long and exhausting too much battle chi, and giving Feng Jixing, this old fellow, an advantage. I don't want to see him take the Lulong talisman without even fighting a battle. This way, the Imperial Guards will have too much of an advantage." "All right." Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, "Then let's decide the victor in one move." "All right." The people below the stage could not hear what the people on the stage were saying, but they could see that Lin Muyu and Qin Yan's expressions suddenly became solemn. Furthermore, the battle chi on the 2's body rapidly rose, giving people a feeling of almost suffocation. Pa! Pa! Qin Lei raised the lightning split saber horizontally. Bolts of lightning descended from the sky, encircling his surroundings. The lightning split saber even trembled slightly. At the same time, 6 golden god-binding chains encircled his body. Vigorous battle chi continuously spread in all directions, forming an extremely powerful storm that was currently attacking in all directions. Even furious lightning descended from the sky, causing the sky to dim. In an instant, it was as if day had turned into night. Only the flickering light of lightning continuously illuminated the people near the viewing platform. "My God!" Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face lost all color as she said, "Is Big Brother Qin Lei going to risk his life? He wouldn't be thinking of killing you, right?" Qin Yin's pair of elegant eyes also revealed worry. I believe that big brother Qin Lei will know what to do. Everyone on the viewing platform was already dumbstruck. The starting stance of Qin Lei's move was really too shocking. It was as if he wanted to borrow the might of the heavens to defeat Lin Muyu. On the contrary, Lin Muyu was extremely calm. The golden gourd in her hand slowly rotated, and in the blink of an eye, it became bigger, enveloping her entire body. The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and with a shout, a golden light soared into the sky, directly piercing through the dark clouds that Qin Lei had condensed. A ray of heavenly light landed on Lin Muyu's body. The long sword left her hand, and the dragon spirit sword rapidly rotated, bringing with it streams of true dragon essence fire. Not only that, Lin Muyu even opened her left hand. Streams of blood-colored demonic energy danced wildly in her palm, quickly seeping into the blade. This strike carried the profound energy of the two glorious demonic dance. Lin Muyu didn't dare to use the fourth glorious dance, because there was no need. If the second glorious dance couldn't defeat Qin Lei, then it could only mean that she wasn't fated to obtain the Gilded Dragon Talisman. And compared to the Gilded Dragon Talisman, Qin Lei's life was obviously more important. Chapter 199. Compared to Qin Lei's lightning that wreaked havoc, Lin Muyu's aura was clearly much gentler. The golden gourd represented the power of life, giving people a sense of peace. However, the demonic power that spread on the blade allowed people to feel the hidden tyranny and forcefulness of Lin Muyu's attack. The two of them were risking their lives right from the start. This made people look forward to the final result even more. On the viewing platform, the noble ladies were sipping tea as they discussed spiritedly. Wow, Sir Qin Lei is indeed worthy of being the commander of the Imperial Army. This kind of aura is too frightening. I'm afraid that Sir Lin Muyu is going to lose. No, Sir Lin Muyu will not lose. Why? Because Sir Lin Muyu looks much better than Sir Qin Lei. Pfft, shameless. Stupid girl, haven't you been staring at Sir Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Feng Jixing? I haven't. Then why did you see Sir Lin Muyu's appearance just now? Her breathing was hurried. Her face was flushed, and she kept pulling at her clothes at the front of her chest? I'm going to kill you to silence you, stupid girl. On the practice platform, the hard stone slabs were actually peeling off and rising due to the collision of power. It was as if they were going against the law of gravity. Bits of stone and dust were constantly flying up, due to the collision of power between Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. However, it was in line with the physical phenomenon of the airflow rotating due to thermal expansion and contraction. Lightning constantly flickered, and the thunder split blade was burned red by the lightning. It had already reached its peak state. Qin Lei's eyes were burning with battle intent. He laughed loudly and said, "You try the sixth attack of Big Brother's thunder split blade technique." As he spoke, Qin Lei shouted, "Raging thunder rips the heavens." Buzz. The thunder cutter blade seemed to have already transformed into countless streaks of lightning. The one in front of them was definitely not a single thunder cutter blade. Qin Lei's overwhelming attack had actually blasted out tens of thousands of thunder cutter blades. A cold glint flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She abruptly clasped her palms together and gathered all the fighting energy in her body. The dragon serpent sword soul let out an angry roar and circled around the blade of the dragon soul sword. The dragon serpent sword soul charged towards the thunder splitter sword with a high-speed spiral of flames. Boom! The two divine weapons collided together, and the sounds of energy explosions rang out incessantly. The dragon spirit sword spun and charged forward, directly shattering the energy of the first lightning split blade. Following that, the second, the third, and so on, it kept on charging forward. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu spread out his arms from afar, with flames lingering around his palms. He controlled the dragon spirit sword to charge forward from a distance. The strong wind blew his cloak, causing it to flutter. He narrowed his eyes, not giving in the slightest to Qin Lei's attack. Awesome! Qin Lei roared as he continued to urge his fighting energy. The sky-rending raging lightning crazily surged. Lin Muyu could not retreat, or else his body would be torn into pieces in an instant. He did not believe that Qin Lei, this battle maniac, had the ability to hold back at the crucial moment. Therefore, he could only win this battle and not lose. The 7 luminaries' profound energy was circulating crazily. When the dragon spirit sword smashed close to 100 thunder splitter sword's sharp beams, its power actually showed some signs of being exhausted. However, Qin Lei's sky-rending raging lightning was still wreaking havoc. The arrow was already on the bowstring and had no choice but to be released. Again, with a light spread of his palms, the 3rd luminary's profound energy crazily surged out of his body. One after another, the celestial bodies of living beings condensed on the martial arts practice stage. Under Lin Muyu's summon, they all attached themselves to the dragon spirit sword from afar. Immediately, the golden light exploded. The dragon spirit sword received the addition of new energy as it rapidly charged towards Qin Lei, directly shattering the energy of dozens of thunder splitter sword. Lin Muyu exerted all of his strength to control the dragon spirit sword through the air. His complexion became rather pale as he secretly prayed. Big brother Qin Lei, hurry up and lose. Don't force me to use the 4th luminaries. The 4th luminaries are too strong. If I use it, even I would be afraid. Finally, Qin Lei, who was on the martial arts practice stage, suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood with a p't sound. He could not hold on any longer. The 6 god-binding chains on the surface of his body began to scatter one after another, and the radiance of the thunder splitter sword also gradually dimmed. Buzz buzz. The dragon spirit sword charged straight towards Qin Lei's chest without stopping. Just as it was about to pierce through, Lin Muyu suddenly retracted his hand. Immediately, as if it had a mind of its own, the long sword made a somersault in the air and stabbed onto the stone slab in front of Lin Muyu. Ga. Qin Lei gasped for breath. While wiping the fresh blood from the corner of his mouth, he raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Satisfying, satisfying. Just where did this strange strength come from? The 6th strike of my thunder splitter sword technique is extremely tyrannical. I'm confident that even Feng Jixing might not be able to dissolve it unscathed. You brat actually forcefully broke through this move of mine. You're really not simple. Lin Muyu's complexion was also pale as she slowly held onto the sword hilt. Her body swayed as she said with a smile, I've already used all of my strength. If I couldn't receive this move, I'm afraid that I would have been hacked to death by big brother Qin Lei. Qin Lei laughed loudly. I've lost. You go fight for first place with Feng Jixing. Many thanks to big brother Qin Lei for letting me win. Pa, I didn't go easy on you. Do you think that I don't want the dragon talisman? Qin Lei wiped the corner of his mouth again and said with a smile, my imperial army only has 7,000 people. If I had the dragon talisman, I would mobilize troops from Sungnan province and expand the imperial army to 17,000 people. Lin Muyu walked forward and held onto Qin Lei's arm. She said with a smile, 7,000 people is already enough. Any more would just be eating rations for free. That's true. At this time, a eunuch walked onto the uneven martial arts practice stage and said loudly, Lin Muyu wins. Lord Qin Lei and Lord Chu Huaying are tied for 3rd and 4th place in this sword duel assembly. Next, Lord Feng Jixing and Lord Lin Muyu will fight for 1st place in this sword duel assembly. Thunderous applause sounded. Everyone was finally going to see a pinnacle showdown. Feng Jixing, the man who was known as the Tiger of Tongtian Street, and Lin Muyu, the peerless genius of the divine temple that was rarely seen in 100 years. One was the commander of the imperial army and had guarded the imperial capital for almost 7 years. The other had saved Her Highness Qin Yin's life twice with wisdom and bravery. Moreover, he had cultivated a 10th grade green gourd martial spirit to such a level that it could actually surpass the 1st grade god-binding shackles. How powerful was this? The showdown between these two people was most likely what everyone expected. At this time, Qin Yin suddenly stood up and said respectfully, Imperial Father, Big Brother Yu has been fighting hard and has consumed a lot of his battle chi and stamina. On the other hand, General Feng has been resting for so long. If we were to fight now, it would be a little unfair to Big Brother Yu. I suggest that we give Big Brother Yu some time to rest. After 2 hours, we will let General Feng and Big Brother Yu have a showdown. Qin Jin happily nodded his head and smiled. Xiao Yin is right. I approve it. The showdown between the two of them will be held 2 hours later. Thank you, Imperial Father. From afar, Lin Muyu also cast a grateful look at Qin Yin. As for Qin Jin, when he saw that Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, and Qin Lei were in the top 4, he heaved a sigh of relief. No matter which family the dragon talisman ended up in, these 4 people were all on his side. Lin Chongqing and Murong Zhou might not be loyal to him. Lin Muyu calmly sat on the stone steps and continuously circulated the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to calm the surging battle qi in her body. She had consumed a lot of energy in the head-on fight with Qin Lei. If she were to fight now, she might not be a match for Feng Jixing at his peak. After all, Feng Jixing's self-created wind blade technique was extremely domineering. Even at her peak, she might not be able to deal with it, let alone in a situation where she had consumed a lot of battle qi. Feng Jixing hugged his wind cutter blade and sat beside Lin Muyu with a smile. He said, If you admit defeat, Big Brother Feng will treat you to a month's worth of beef and flour buns. How about it? Deal. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. Don't give me that. I won't fall for it. Feng Jixing smiled and said, What do you think of Her Highness Yin's appearance? Is she number 1 in the world? This, Lin Muyu's heart wavered slightly, but she knew that it was Feng Jixing's trick. She calmed her heart and said, Her Highness' appearance is still okay. I'm still not falling for it. Feng Jixing grinned and said, If you were to choose, who would you marry? Her Highness Qin Yin, Princess Shi, and the beauty Chu Yao, who would you choose? Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, Don't give me that, I won't choose any of them. Really? That's a pity. Feng Jixing whistled and laid down on the stone steps beside Lin Muyu. He didn't look like a commander of the imperial army at all. Instead, he looked more like a hoodlum. He lowered his voice and laughed. I think you should marry both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. One will be the elder, and the other will be the younger. What do you think? Uffed. Lin Muyu finally laughed and stopped circulating her energy. She said, Big Brother Feng, you're so scheming. Ahem, is the first place of this sword duel tournament really that important to you? Of course it's important. Feng Jixing revealed his true colors. The first place will receive a reward of 100,000 Jin Yin coins. The second place will only receive 30,000 Jin Yin coins. It's not even enough to buy a big house in the capital. Chu Huayin, who was cultivating to heal his injuries, opened his eyes and asked, What do you want a big house for? How can I marry without a big house? Feng Jixing's eyes widened. You don't have a wife? Chu Huayin laughed. Feng Jixing pulled out his wind cutter and raised his eyebrows. Chu Huayin, don't say anything else. Fight me one-on-one if you're a man. Chu Huayin grinned and continued to cultivate to heal his injuries. He said, You don't fall for his trick. 3 years ago, in order to get first place in the sword competition, this guy actually invited me to drink wine the day before. He said he wanted to drink rice wine, but in the end, it was all strong alcohol. He even found a few girls from Spring Fragrance Brothel to drink with him. I was defeated by him after I was drunk. Humph, how disgraceful. Lin Muyu held back her laughter. Since that's the case, I definitely can't lose to Brother Feng. I also want a big house and a wife. Feng Jixing held back his laughter. It's really unfortunate to know you guys. Chu Huayin pouted. If those girls in the capital knew that you, Feng Jixing, are like this, I'd like to see if they would still be interested in you. Humph. Lin Muyu secretly laughed but didn't say anything. 2 hours passed quickly. It was time for the competition. Lin Muyu silently circulated her battle energy and found that it had recovered to 90%. She could almost fight with Feng Jixing now. Chapter 200. Prepare to start the duel. Qin Jin stood up, brushed the sleeves of his dragon robe, and said in a dignified manner, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, I hope that the two of you will adhere to the principle of fair competition and decide the victor. Both of you are the Empire's outstanding talents. Stop when necessary, and don't hurt each other, understand? Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu stood on the martial arts practice stage and gave a military salute to the Emperor at the same time, saying in a deep voice, This general understands. Actually, They understood in their hearts that all of them were martial cultivators, and every single one of them had a heart that was unwilling to admit defeat. Since they were standing on the final martial arts practice stage, then they would surely go all out to determine the victor. Feng Jixing needed this victory in the sword duel tournament to prove his strength as the commander of the imperial army. Lin Muyu also needed a big victory like this to prove her worth in this world. So no one would go easy on her, but they definitely wouldn't fight with their lives on the line like Qin Lei. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were both intelligent people, and they respected each other like brothers, so naturally they wouldn't have any killing intent during the duel. Clang! The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and the sword's cry was incessant. The dragon serpent sword spirit, which was close to a true dragon, coiled around the longsword, and this was the symbol of a sacred beast's soul lattice. Holding the longsword horizontally, Lin Muyu didn't move, and had the demeanor of a great swordsman. Feng Jixing unhurriedly pulled out the wind cutter, and said with a smile, "You, in terms of weapons, you have the upper hand. This dragon spirit sword is a sacred rank, but my wind cutter is only a profound rank. It's too disadvantageous." Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Big brother Feng, just swallow this grievance. If worst comes to worst, I'll think of a way to help you reforge your wind cutter saber after the sword duel tournament. I'll raise your wind cutter saber's soul to the saint rank. However, you can't tell anyone about this, or else I'll be in big trouble." Feng Jixing lowered his voice and laughed. "You brat, you are indeed well versed in the art of forging weapons. I knew it. All right, it's a deal. As long as you can reforge the wind cutter saber into a saint rank weapon, it doesn't matter even if big brother Feng loses this sword duel. Come, let's do our best and not leave any regrets." "Yes!" Feng Jixing shouted. The purple electric flame wolf roared incessantly. Bolts of lightning gathered on the saber. In the next moment, it raised the saber and rushed over. An extraordinary saber swept out. Desert Gale. Lin Muyu was already familiar with this move. She stomped on the ground with her combat boots, and the pale golden wall of the gourd appeared. It was very beautiful, and the dragon spirit sword shook slightly, bringing along the purple lightning to meet the attack. Ding! Sparks flew, and no one gained any advantage in this exchange. Both of them swayed on the spot. Feng Jixing was secretly stunned. He did not expect Lin Muyu's advancement to be so rapid. When they first met in the dragon-seeking forest, Feng Jixing was able to completely crush him in terms of strength. This kid was indeed a rare talent that only appeared once in 100 years. Thinking of this, Feng Jixing was inexplicably excited. To have such a rare genius as an opponent. Wasn't this a kind of fortune for cultivators? Flame. Feng Jixing suddenly lowered his head, and the purple electric flame wolf on his shoulder quickly opened its mouth. Voila! A scarlet flame shot out. It was a martial soul skill. Naturally, Lin Muyu didn't dare to be negligent. She quickly strengthened the dragon scale wall, and the golden wall of the gourd blocked this attack. Amidst the surging flames, her aura was slightly chaotic. Feng Jixing's cultivation was extraordinary, and the power of his martial soul skill was naturally imaginable. Just when the gourd wall blocked this attack, Feng Jixing suddenly rushed over in the flames. Scarlet hot sand lingered around his saber, and a fierce horizontal slash landed on the wall of the gourd. Hot sand gold. Dang! The gourd wall quickly collapsed by half. This attack of Feng Jixing was really powerful, but Lin Muyu was not inferior. His body spun, and he quickly used the falling star step to catch up with Feng Jixing. The dragon spirit sword whistled, and 3 consecutive slashes slashed at Feng Jixing's back. Good boy, Feng Jixing's heart shook. He didn't think that Lin Muyu's movement skill would be so good. He was already fast enough, but he couldn't catch up to Lin Muyu's speed at all. Falling star step, as the name suggested, was fast. Naturally, it wasn't something that Feng Jixing could compare with. Slashing the wind cutter horizontally. Dang 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 blocked 3 consecutive slashes from Lin Muyu, but at this moment, Lin Muyu's hand pressed on the hilt of the sword. A bunch of gourd vines quickly rose from the blade, and quickly wrapped around the wind cutter saber. Taking advantage of the momentum, the vines lifted the wind cutter saber up. What? Feng Jixing was stunned. Just when the saber was about to fly out of his hand, He saw Lin Muyu suddenly raise his right leg, and a stream of true dragon elemental fire lingered around his leg, and he brazenly kicked. Feng Jixing was not a person who was afraid of trouble. He immediately jumped up with the saber, and his knee hit Lin Muyu's combat boots. Pung! The cyclone flowed back. Feng Jixing took advantage of the situation, and cleverly grabbed the wind cutter saber, and twisted it with all his strength. Suddenly, the gourd vines scattered, and in this way, Lin Muyu's determined attack was actually perfectly resolved. Lin Muyu secretly admired Feng Jixing's ability to adapt in a battle. At this moment, Feng Jixing clenched the saber, and his body was covered with wind blades. He directly swung the violent saber storm, the third style of the wind-walking saber technique. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sky was filled with wind blades, and Lin Muyu hurriedly retreated a few steps. She summoned the wall of the gourd again, and adopted a defensive strategy. At the same time, she closed her eyes and released her spirit meridian technique. She locked onto Feng Jixing's position, and raised her hand to launch a demonic sound fist. Bam! The demonic sound fist smashed into Feng Jixing's battle armor, but the violent saber storm continued to wreak havoc, violently crashing into the wall of the gourd. Lin Muyu's battle chi was constantly being consumed, and she was beginning to feel that her battle chi was about to run out. What was even worse was that Feng Jixing's figure appeared in the midst of the raging winds. Purple lightning lingered around his wind cutter saber, and the sky darkened. It was as if all the light in the sky had been absorbed by the purple electric flame wolf. Feng Jixing leaped high into the air and suddenly slashed down with his violent thunder saber. I have to block it. Lin Muyu abruptly injected a powerful burst of 7 luminaries' profound energy into her arms. She gripped her sword with both hands and leaped into the air. One celestial body after another appeared around her, and her sword contained the power of the first luminaries as it met the violent thunder saber head-on. Bam! Almost no one could be seen on the drill ground anymore. Everyone could only see the whistling sound of battle chi colliding with each other. The collision directly formed a violent shockwave that swept across the entire observation platform, and many people had already covered their eyes. Buzz Buzz Chinin stood in front of her father, and golden god binding chains slowly appeared around her to block the storm and the rubble. Tang Xiaoxi also summoned her firefox to block the storm with the power of fire. Chu Chu narrowed his eyes, and he remained calm and collected. The light of a fire cauldron appeared around him, and the storm and rubble naturally couldn't harm him in the slightest. Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Commander Feng Jixing and Mumu, these two fellows are simply like two monsters. They're a little too ridiculously strong, right? Chu Chu smiled. Just as princess, she said, Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both rare geniuses that only appear once in 1,000 years. As long as they have enough time, their strength will be unfathomable. Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and asked, Chu, what do you think of these two people? Me? Chu Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. If this old man may be so bold to say, the future of the empire will probably be closely related to these two people. Your Majesty, if we use these two people well, they can bring peace to our great Qin. If we don't use them well, I'm afraid that these two people will become ambitious and ruthless people in this chaotic world. Qin Jin was startled. Commander Feng Jixing can be said to be loyal and devoted to me. He won't become an ambitious and ruthless person in this chaotic world, right? Chu Chu laughed. Your Majesty, you're worrying too much. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both like unpolished jade. Feng Jixing is loyal and courageous, while Lin Muyu is even more sincere. As long as your Majesty doesn't betray these two people, they will definitely not betray your Majesty. If we use these two people well, Great Qin will be able to last for another 1,000 years. Qin Jin felt relieved. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you for your teachings, Chu. Chu Chu also cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, you're too kind. There's no need to be so polite. Otherwise, this old man will tremble in fear and not dare to speak again. Qin Jin smiled faintly. Elder Chu, you're being too polite. How about this? If Elder Chu doesn't mind, you can stay in Zetian Palace for a long time. I'll make you the princess's grand tutor, and you'll be in charge of teaching little Yin's cultivation, virtue, and ability. Chu Chu was stunned. Your Majesty, this, Qinin hurriedly said with a smile. Chu, you've taught Xiaoxi and you before. Why can't you teach Xiaoyin as well? Then. All right then. Chu said respectfully. Then this old man will do as you say. Thank you, Chu. Qinin was overjoyed. Her beautiful face was filled with excitement. In reality, no one knew what she was thinking. Once she acknowledged Chu as her master, it would mean that she and Lin Muyu were not only sworn siblings, they would also be fellow disciples. It seemed like their relationship had deepened to another level. At this time, the battle on the training platform had reached its climax. Feng Jixing activated his power, and the purple electric flame wolf's head constellation appeared on his saber. Raging flames surged as he unleashed a secret technique called Howling Wolf Saber Fire. Lin Muyu had also raised her power to the second element, and she unleashed a combination of Thunderclap Frenzy plus 2 Luminaries Demonic Dance. Clang! The Wind Cutter saber trembled violently, and the Dragon Spirit sword also trembled slightly. The two's power just so happened to reach an equilibrium. But right at this moment, a smile suddenly appeared on Feng Jixing's face. You've lost? Lin Muyu was stunned, but she was caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a hand on Feng Jixing's shoulder. No, it wasn't a hand, but the purple electric flame wolf's sharp claws. It was a giant claw filled with lightning and flames, and it was the purple electric flame wolf's martial soul's skill. Fiery Palm Pounce. Bang! The fiery palm pounce landed heavily on Lin Muyu's shoulder, shattering her Doqi armor. At the same time, the force of the blow sent her flying. The two had already collided in midair, and now Lin Muyu was sent flying by the force of the blow. She was already flying out of the edge of the training platform, and according to the rules, landing outside of the training platform would be considered a loss. What a good Feng Jixing, to have such a move up his sleeves. This competition was indeed full of schemes. Chapter 201. But just as Feng Jixing was rejoicing, Lin Muyu, who was in the air, suddenly opened her hand, and her martial soul extended out several gourd vines that quickly wrapped around one of the pillars of the martial arts stage. With a so sound, she pulled it back, and her whole body once again rushed up the martial arts stage. Pa! Lin Muyu stood firmly on her feet and smiled. Big brother Feng, don't be too happy just yet. Good lad again. Feng Jixing laughed and suddenly raised his saber. A terrifying celestial demon constellation appeared behind him. It was the 7th form of the wind saber art, sky-devouring demonic saber. It was this move that defeated the successor of the Seven Seas Tang sect, Tang Bin. Now Feng Jixing was using the same move. Lin Muyu let out a shout, and the power of the third element surged into her arms. The dragon spirit sword spun rapidly, and she used her peak combat technique to meet Feng Jixing's fierce move. 3 Luminaries Calamity plus True Dragon Essence Fire plus Helix Break. Wang. Lin Muyu controlled the flaming longsword and rushed toward Feng Jixing's sky-devouring demonic saber. But this time, she only dared to use about 40% of the third element's power, because she was afraid of injuring Feng Jixing. Of course, Lin Muyu didn't know that Feng Jixing didn't use his full strength either. He only used 50% of the sky-devouring demonic saber's power. Hong! The demonic saber covered in flames descended from the sky and clashed directly with Lin Muyu's longsword. The moment they clashed, they were actually equally matched. The two weapons were glued together, their battle chis restricting each other. It was a stalemate. At this moment, Lin Muyu opened her palm and said, "Big brother Feng, look here." Feng Jixing looked over. Whoosh! A dazzling ray of dawn bloomed in Lin Muyu's palm. It was the light of a small golden gourd. It was the green gourd's 7th level ability, Light of Dawn. My eyes. You brat? Feng Jixing hastily covered his eyes. This battle was full of schemes, and this time, it was Lin Muyu who schemed against Feng Jixing. However, just when Lin Muyu was secretly pleased with herself, Feng Jixing suddenly kicked his legs in the air, and 3 consecutive powerful kicks landed on the wall of the gourd. Everyone knew that Feng Jixing's saber technique was invincible, but no one knew that Feng Jixing's leg technique was also so fierce. Immediately, the power of the third brilliance and the heaven-devouring demonic blade exploded in the air. With the addition of the power from Feng Jixing's kick, the two of them quickly separated and landed on both sides of the training platform. While in the air, Lin Muyu wanted to summon the gourd vine, but she couldn't. The wall of the gourd was destroyed by Feng Jixing's unreasonable kick, and she couldn't summon any strength from her martial soul. Pa! Her battle boots landed on the ground, and she slid more than 10 meters away before she came to a stop. Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed the dragon spirit sword that was chasing after her. With a shocked expression, she said, "I lost just like that?" On the other side of the training platform, Feng Jixing also flipped in the air and landed on the ground. He stood firmly, rubbed his eyes, and looked up at the training platform. He said, "Tui, this brat Yu is too crafty." My eyes. The scene was very quiet, and everyone who was watching the battle was also stunned. This was because Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing both landed on the ground at almost the same time, and no one could determine who won the finals of the sword duel tournament. The eunuch who announced the results stood there dumbfounded. In the end, he turned around and asked for help. "Your Majesty, the two of them landed on the ground at almost the same time. There's no way to determine the outcome. What should we do?" Tu Chu laughed heartily. "Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, come onto the stage and listen to His Majesty's announcement of the results." Qin Jin had a gratified expression on his face. He stood up and stroked his beard. He laughed heartily at Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu who were standing on the stage. This competition has really broadened my horizons. The strength of Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu has already been witnessed by everyone. With this result, the two of them are the champions of the sword duel tournament. As for the rewards, the dragon talisman and 200,000 jin coins, the two of you can choose yourselves. Feng Jixing was stunned. He wanted the dragon talisman, but he also wanted the jin coins. For a moment he was stuck in a dilemma. In the end, Lin Muyu was more straightforward. He didn't lack money, but he lacked an army. Thus he cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, I choose the dragon talisman. I'll give the 200,000 jin coins to Big Brother Feng." Feng Jixing nodded in tacit agreement. Qin Jin laughed heartily and said, "All right, I hereby announce that the champions of this sword duel tournament are Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. The third and fourth places are Chu Huaying and Qin Lei. The rest of the contestants will also be rewarded accordingly. The final winner of the dragon talisman is Lin Muyu. Come forward to receive your reward." Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing walked forward together. Qin Jin personally handed out the reward. A dragon-shaped golden dragon talisman was placed in an extremely exquisite box. Qin Jin lifted it up and carefully placed it in Lin Muyu's hands. He reminded her, You must use the dragon talisman carefully. Once you mobilize the army, it means that you are controlling it as the Empire's general. You must not kill indiscriminately, or defy the Empire's laws. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu accepted the dragon talisman and nodded heavily. "Yes, Your Majesty." Qin Jin then took out a 200,000 gold note and handed it to Feng Jixing. He said, "General Feng, as the commander of the Imperial Guards, you are responsible for the long-term stability of the Imperial capital. I hope that you will continue to give your all for the Empire in the future." Feng Jixing nodded with a determined look in his eyes. "Your Majesty, this general understands." At this moment, Qin Yin pulled Tang Xiaoxi forward and stopped in front of Lin Muyu. She grinned and said, "Congratulations, Big Brother Yu. You actually managed to obtain the dragon talisman." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "I told you Mu is as strong as a monster now. Obtaining the dragon talisman is as easy as pie." Lin Muyu blushed. "It's not as easy as you make it out to be. I was almost killed by Big Brother Feng's sword." Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and said angrily, "Don't say that. I was almost pierced through the chest by your sword." At this moment, Qin Lei and Qin Yan walked over while supporting Chu Huayin. The others also approached them one by one, waiting for the emperor to reward them. Qin Yin smiled and said, "Father, didn't you want to give the top 4 a title?" It seemed like Qin Yin had always wanted to give Lin Muyu a title. Now the opportunity had finally come. Qin Jin nodded lightly. He held the Desolation Sword, which symbolized his status as an emperor, and slowly stepped onto the pothole-filled martial arts arena. He exuded the majesty of an emperor as he said in a clear voice, "The Qin Empire is full of talented people. Today, during the sword competition, I can see that the empire is full of talented people. With so many young heroes, our Qin Empire will definitely be strong for generations to come." As he spoke, he paused and said loudly, "I hereby appoint Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin as the 4 generals of the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. They will also be known as the 4 heroes of Lanyan. The title of the 4 heroes of Lanyan will accompany them for life. They will be second-class nobles in the empire. I hope that the 4 of you will charge and break through enemy lines for the Qin Empire in the future and protect our territory." Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the others all cupped their fists in greeting. Second-class nobles. This was not a small title. In terms of nobility, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, and the others were all first-class nobles. Second-class nobles were at least second-class nobles. Although it was only a title, from now on, no one would dare to think that Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin were commoners. Chu Huayin's face revealed a trace of gratification. The Chu family had been commoners for thousands of years. In his generation, there was finally a change. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. For heroes of Lanyan. Qin Yin softly repeated the name twice. She smiled and said, "It's really appropriate. Congratulations, brother Yu. From now on, you are one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan. You can finally be on the same level as General Feng and brother Qin Lei." Lin Muyu smiled in gratification. "Yes, I have to thank your majesty for this." As he spoke, he put away the dragon talisman and threw the precious token into his cosmos sack. Qin Jin continued to reward the contestants ranked 5th to 12th. Although these people did not have eye-catching titles like the 4 heroes of Lanyan, the rewards they received were still considerable. Those who held positions in the army had all been promoted by 1 rank. Otherwise, they would have received at least 10,000 Jinin coins as a reward. That was not a small number. "Congratulations, little Lin, you have finally become a noble." Chu Chu smiled and congratulated him. Lin Muyu pursed her lips. "Chu, don't make fun of me. My small status as one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan is just a small trick in front of you." "Oh right, Chu, are you really willing to be the princess tutor? I can't disobey your majesty's words." Chu Chu said helplessly. "Originally, I, Chu Chu, had never accepted a disciple in my entire life. Ever since you came, I have been making an exception. Fine, it doesn't matter if I accept a well-behaved disciple like Her Highness Yin." "Yes, Chu, you have worked hard." Beside him, Feng Jixing put his arm around Lin Muyu's shoulder and laughed. "You, shall we find a place to gather tonight?" "Sure, where?" "Listen to the Rain Tower, your treat." "How about it? You have the dragon talisman, so you will be the biggest winner of this sword contest." "Sure." Sure." Following that was another series of reward ceremonies. The rules of the royal family were very complicated, but Lin Muyu tried to accept it. Here he was the closest to the sky and also the closest to the peak of this world. He had to be patient, otherwise he would not be able to show off his skills in the future. The contest finally ended when the sun set. The supervisor of the Zetian Palace held a banquet in the main hall, but Qin Jin did not attend because he was too tired. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest of the 4 heroes of Lanyan did not attend either. They slipped out of the Zetian Palace under the cover of the night and went straight to listen to the Rain Tower. "Both Her Highness Yin and Princess She did not come today, so we can drink to our heart's content." Qin Lei laughed. Chu Huayin nodded. "The Zetian Palace has Chu's protection, so I believe there will not be any danger. It is rare for us to have this opportunity, so we must drink until we are drunk tonight. How about it?" "Sure." That night, they really drank until they were drunk, and they did not go home at all. For people wearing the armors of the Empire's senior generals left to listen to the Rain Tower after they were drunk. It was early in the morning, and the cold wind was blowing, but they did not seem to feel cold at all. They recited poems facing the moonlight. Qin Lei was a boorish man, so he did not know how to recite poems, but Chu Huayin and Feng Jixing were quite knowledgeable, so they recited some poems that were similar to "Where will we wake up tonight? The willows are by the shore, the wind is at dawn, and the moon is waning. After that, the four of them were drunk by the hidden dragon lake of Lanyan City. In the early morning, a few ruffians walked over and all of them were dumbfounded. Gosh, these people seem to be the experts of today's sword contest. They are known as the four heroes of Lanyan. TSK, they are already drunk. Should we touch them? Touch, touch, touch. Therefore, when Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest woke up, all the Jingyan coins on them had been stolen. Fortunately, these ruffians did not dare to be too bold, and only took some Jingyan coins and silver coins. They did not even dare to touch Feng Jixing's gold notes. Otherwise, if the commander of the Imperial Guards was angry, it would be disastrous. Slapping his forehead, Feng Jixing woke up and said in annoyance, "Which bastard dared to steal the money pouch of the tiger of Tongtian Street?" Lin Muyu said, "My few hundred Jingyan coins were also stolen." Chu Huayin laughed. "Money is gone and people are happy. I am so tired. I am going back to sleep." "Go back, everyone. We will meet again next time." "Okay." Chapter 202. Back at the Eagle Nest camp, Lin Muyu continued to sleep until noon. Suddenly, she rode up the mountain and said respectfully, "Commander Lin, Princess Shi is seeing off her cousin, Tang Bin, at the north gate of Lanyan City. She asked if you would like to have a meal at the bun shop outside the city." "Got it. I'll be right there." "Yes." She got up. The feeling of being drunk was really uncomfortable. When she washed up, she used the spiritual pulse technique to drive away some of the tiredness. Then, she put on her armor and rode down the mountain. Outside the north gate of Lanyan City, Tang Xiaoxi stood there holding her pony. Beside her was Tang Bin and dozens of guards who seemed to be waiting for Lin Muyu. Amidst the sound of hooves, Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu coming down from the Eagle Nest Mountain, and couldn't help but smile. "Mu is here." Tang Bin frowned and didn't say anything. When Lin Muyu approached, she cupped her fists and smiled. "Xiaoxi, young master Tang Bin." Tang Bin also cupped his fists and smiled. "I didn't have time to congratulate Commander Lin yesterday. It shouldn't be too late to congratulate you today. Congratulations to Commander Lin for getting the dragon talisman." Lin Muyu was startled and smiled. "Thank you, young master Tang Bin." "Mu, I'm going to send my cousin 10 miles out of the city. Will you accompany me? There's a famous bun shop 10 miles north of Lanyan City. We'll have lunch there," Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile. "Okay." Everyone got on their horses. Tang Bin seemed a little unhappy. Perhaps he was already unhappy when he saw Tang Xiaoxi being so intimate with Lin Muyu. 10 miles out of the city, there was indeed a bun shop in the distance. Almost all the traveling merchants would stop here to eat a steaming basket of beef buns in the cold winter. Tang Xiaoxi acted as the host and pulled Lin Muyu over. Then Tang Bin sat opposite them looking very serious. "Brother, why are you so serious? Who bullied you?" Tang Xiaoxi asked with a smile. Tang Bin couldn't help smiling. "No one can bully your brother. I'm just relieved to see that you are so happy in Lanyan City, Xiaoxi." "Is that so? No matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like he's at ease." "Ha, Xiaoxi, you think too much." Tang Bin looked up at Lin Muyu's handsome appearance and couldn't help but frown. He asked, "Xiaoxi, when did you meet Commander Lin?" "Oh, it was back in Kathia City." "What's wrong, brother?" "It's nothing. The buns are here. Eat them while they're hot. Eat more. Look at you, you've lost weight. Hee hee, don't girls look better when they're thinner? You still have to be healthy. Come on, eat more." Amen. Lin Muyu could sense Tang Bin's hostility towards her, so she didn't say anything else. She just kept eating. After eating 2 baskets of buns, she felt inexplicably satisfied. Cultivators usually ate a lot. There was a law of balance between the heavens and the earth. The strength of cultivators came from their ability to absorb the spiritual energy of the world and convert their physical strength into fighting qi, true qi, and so on. Thus, the stronger Lin Muyu was, the more food she would need. It wasn't like the legends said that experts didn't need to eat at all. On the contrary, the stronger one was, the better their appetite would be. "Commander Lin." Tang Bin looked at Lin Muyu again. He seemed to want to say something, but stopped himself. What is it, young Master Tangbin? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. If you have something to say, just say it. Tangbin nodded. There are a total of 3 Tang sect medallions in this world. One is with grandfather, one is with me, and one is with Xiaoxi. However, Xiaoxi's medallion seems to have already been given to you. That Xiaoxi is not very sensible and doesn't know how precious the Tang sect medallion is. Thus I, Tangbin, can only overstep my authority. I hope that Commander Lin can return that Tang sect medallion. Oh. Lin Muyu took out the heavy Tang sect medallion from her universe pouch. What does young Master Tangbin plan to do with this Tang sect medallion? Bring it back to Seven Seas City. It belongs to Seven Seas City. But this was given to me by Xiaoxi. If I give it to you, won't I be betraying Xiaoxi? Lin Muyu's gaze was filled with provocation. Since Duke Lan gave this Tang sect medallion to Xiaoxi, it means that all the authority of this medallion is given to Xiaoxi. Thus, if I return it, I can only return it to Xiaoxi, not you. Tangbin raised his eyebrows. Lin Muyu, I hope you understand the value of this Tang sect medallion. Anyone who holds this Tang sect medallion can deploy any army in Seven Seas Province with no more than 50,000 soldiers. The authority bestowed by this medallion is even greater than that of the Dragon Talisman. Do you think I will leave this medallion in the hands of an outsider? Lin Muyu smiled. Then I will return the medallion to Xiaoxi. What if I say no? Tangbin's gaze was cold. As the Princess of Seven Seas, Xiaoxi is insensible enough to give the Tang sect medallion to an unrelated person. She is no longer fit to hold this Tang sect medallion. I have to take it back to Seven Seas Province and hand it over to my grandfather. This is our Seven Seas Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't meddle in the Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu was someone who could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. She said proudly, Xiaoxi is my friend. If someone wants to steal something from my friend, I won't allow it. Xiaoxi, are you willing to hand over the Tang sect medallion to him? Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips. She looked at Tangbin and said, Brother, I will personally go back and hand this Tang sect medallion to my grandfather. I won't trouble you to come and get it. Tangbin raised his brows and said, Little Shi, you're still young, and there are many things you don't understand. As your older brother, I naturally have to teach you how to interact with others. Some people aren't worthy of being your friend. Lin Muyu suddenly slammed the table and shouted in a low voice, Tangbin, say it again if you have the guts. Tangbin suddenly smiled. He spread his arms and said, Lin Muyu, do you want to fight with me? Generally, call our people over. Tell them that Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen and the 4 generals of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, is going to fight with me. At the side, General Li quickly blew a whistle. Immediately, the forest in the distance shook, and in the next moment, the sound of iron hooves thundered. At least 1,000 cavalrymen appeared on the official road, each of them wearing a red fox emblem on their shoulders. That was the symbol of the Seven Seas Tang sect. So they brought the army. Lin Muyu spread out her hands and said with a smile, No wonder they are so arrogant. If I had known it would be like this, I would have brought the Imperial Guard over. I wanted to see if the Seven Seas Tang sect's army was as strong as the legends say. Tangbin smiled faintly. It's a pity that Commander Lin didn't bring her own army. What a pity. However, I still don't want to hand over the Tang sect's Iron Order. What should I do? Lin Muyu turned around and stood up. She stuffed the Tang sect's Iron Order into Tang Xiaoxi's palm and said with a smile, Now the Iron Order belongs to Xiaoxi. Tangbin, as her brother, are you going to use the army in your hands to seize Xiaoxi's Iron Order? That is equivalent to seizing the 50,000 soldiers in Seven Seas City that Xiaoxi controls? Tangbin said coldly, Xiaoxi is my sister. Don't try to sow discord between us. Lin Muyu snorted coldly. Is that so? Tangbin, you are already the greatest successor of Seven Seas City. Why are you still so greedy? Why are you even determined to obtain Xiaoxi's Tang sect's Iron Order? Nonsense. Don't slander me. Slander you? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Xiaoxi is deeply doted on by Duke Lan? and will seize your right of inheritance? Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Xiaoxi will threaten you? You. Tang Bin's face turned red and he was speechless. General Li, who was behind him, had already mounted his horse. He waved his saber and said with a smile, "Young master, there is no need to talk so much with him. Just order the cavalry to charge and take this brat's life. Just say that he stole our Tang sect's iron order. The evidence is conclusive. I believe that His Majesty will have nothing to say." Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly spread her arms in front of Lin Muyu. Her pretty face was full of anger as she shouted, "Li Liani, you bastard who can't tell right from wrong. Are you going to attack me?" Li Liani was stunned. At this moment, the dense sound of horse hooves came from afar. Not long after, a group of Imperial Army cavalry appeared in their field of vision. The leading general pulled out his sword from afar and shouted in a low voice, "An unknown army has entered the territory of Lanyan City. Brothers, prepare for battle." It was none other than one of the Kiliarchs of the Imperial Army and the former Gold Star instructor of the Holy Temple, Zhang Wei. 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers arrived aggressively. Lin Muyu spread his arms and said with a smile, "Lord Zhang Wei, don't be in a hurry to charge. This is just a misunderstanding, he." He was overjoyed. Zhang Wei had come just in time. It was as if he had come out of nowhere. Zhang Wei naturally knew the pros and cons. He raised his thick eyebrows and dismounted. "Oh, it's young Master Tang Bin. I was wondering who it was. However, young Master Tang Bin, all frontier vassals need to report to the army before they enter the capital. We, the Imperial Army, did not receive any report from the 1007 Seas City Cavalry led by young Master Tang Bin. Young Master, is there some misunderstanding?" Tang Bin clenched his teeth and cupped his fists. "Lord Zhang Wei, it is indeed a misunderstanding. These 1000 cavalry were just sent by 7 Seas City to protect me. I did not have the time to report to the Imperial Army. Please forgive me, Lord Zhang Wei." Zhang Wei's lips curled up. "Oh, so it really is a misunderstanding. I, old Zhang, thought that young master wanted to make a move on Lady Lin Muyu. Lady Lin Muyu is one of the newly conferred 4 heroes of Lanyan. Whoever dares to make a move on her is a provocation to His Majesty's imperial authority. Since it's not the case, that's great. Young master, please leave. I still have a mission to patrol the city. Old Zhang, please forgive me for not sending you off." Tang Bin nodded. "All right, we will meet again in the future. Have a safe trip, I won't send you off." Although Tang Bin was unwilling, he did not have the slightest chance this time. The 1000 Imperial Army soldiers led by Zhang Wei were all elite cavalry. They might not lose to his 1007 Seas City Cavalry. Moreover, there was also Lin Muyu, whose strength was unfathomable. Furthermore, Tang Xiaoxi was deeply doted on by Tang Lan. If this matter were to blow up, it would not do him any good. After watching Tang Bin and the others leave, Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and said, "Mu, I'm really sorry this time." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Holding her little hand, she said, "With our friendship, there is no need to say sorry. But this Tang Bin is really too overbearing. It would be terrible if the 7 Seas province were to be handed over to such a person in the future. Could it be that Xiaoxi, don't you want to take back your position as the successor of 7 Seas City?" "But Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes were filled with helplessness. Chapter 203. But what? Lin Muyu laughed softly. "Could it be that you want to see that scene again? Tang Bin uses his power to bully others. Not only does he bully you, but he also bullies your friends. Can you endure all of this?" "I don't want to." Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and said, "He and I are brother and sister. For the sake of power, I don't want things to go to that stage. But this has been the case since ancient times. Duke Lan dotes on you so much and will definitely leave a place in 7 Seas City for you. At that time, it is inevitable that Tang Bin will attack you with his sword. So it is better to make a decision as soon as possible." Lin Muyu's gaze was sincere, and Tang Xiaoxi almost couldn't bear to look at it. She blushed and said, "But 7 Seas City has its rules. Only those who have mastered the Firefox seal have the right to become the Lord of 7 Seas City. Grandfather's firefox seal has already reached perfection, and Tangbin's firefox seal has also reached the 7th layer. But as a girl, I can't even control the 1st layer. It doesn't matter, there will definitely be a way. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, let's go ask the 2 elders Lei Hong and Chu Chu and see if they have a way to solve the problem of you being unable to cultivate the firefox seal. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and nodded. She shook Lin Muyu's hand and said with a smile, Mu, it is good to have you here. Lin Muyu smiled and said, do you feel that I am more reliable than your brothers? Don't worry, Xiaoxi, I will protect you well in the future and won't let anyone bully you. Good, I will remember what you said today. You must also remember it. I will. Zhang Wei was dumbstruck. My goodness, you guys are treating this general like air and talking about love here. Don't you care about the feelings of a single person like me? Lin Muyu chuckled. Thank you, Lord Zhang Wei, for coming in time this time. In the future, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of Feng Jixing, so that you can become captaincy as soon as possible. Haha, thank you very much, Madam Lin Muyu. I know that you dote on me the most. Tang Xiaoxi was a bit speechless. She looked at Lin Muyu and then at Zhang Wei with worry in her eyes. She grabbed Lin Muyu's hand tightly and said, Mu, let's hurry back to the city. We can't stay here for long. All right. At night, in the Zetian Palace, the moonlight shone on the imperial city like water. Outside Phoenix Perching Palace Hall, Chu Huaying led 20 dragon guards to guard the balcony with their swords and sabers. The moonlight shone on their silver armor, giving off a holy glow. Although the night was cold and bleak, these loyal dragon guards were like stone statues that did not fear the cold. Inside the palace hall, there was a pot of soup on the stove that was slowly boiling. Chu Chu and Rei Hong sat on the floor, sipping tea while Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Lin Muyu accompanied them. It wasn't easy to invite Rei Hong here in the middle of the night. Furthermore, Chu Chu was also here. It was a rare opportunity for the Empire's 2 great saints to gather. This is indeed a difficult problem. Rei Hong muttered to himself and looked at Tang Xiaoxi. Princess, she is a woman after all, so her physique and the structure of her energy sea are very different from a man's. The firefox seal is a kind of ultimate technique that is domineering and powerful. A non-man's energy sea is unable to nurture the fire origin energy of the firefox seal. And without the fire origin energy of the eyes, it is impossible to condense the firefox seal. Tang Xiaoxi's little mouth twitched, but she didn't say anything. Lin Muyu asked on her behalf, Great Deacon, what is the difference between a man and a woman's energy sea? Why is it that Xiaoyin can use such a powerful martial soul like the god-binding chains, but Xiaoxi can't condense the firefox seal? There is a huge difference. The one who spoke was Chu Chu. He raised his head and said, although the god-binding chains are powerful and domineering, it is still a martial soul inherited from the bloodline. Although Princess Xiaoyin is a woman, the blood flowing in her body is the true dragon bloodline of the Qin family, so she can naturally bear the domineering god-binding chains. However, Princess Xi's body is very different. She is an extremely normal woman. Lei Hong continued, the sea of qi is condensed in the dantian. In the dantian of a man, there is a profound latch called Guanyuan. Every man is born, this Guanyuan profound latch is opened, so it has endless benefits, and can practice any kind of powerful martial arts. But after a woman is born, this Guanyuan profound latch is sealed. Unless she can open the profound latch, otherwise, she can't practice some extreme yang techniques. Lin Muyu seemed to see a glimmer of hope and said, then can't we just open Xiaoxi's origin gate? Lei Hong shook his head and said, no. A woman's primordial profound latch is like her own body. Every woman is born with a virgin body. Only after having intercourse with a man will the lower body's profound latch be broken, but the profound latch in the qi sea cannot be broken. Once it is broken, the qi sea will leak out, which is equivalent to crippling the qi sea. Immediately, the faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi turned bright red. Lin Muyu was speechless and said, the metaphor of a virgin body? It can't be that melodramatic, right? Grand Deacon, don't tell me that the only way is for Xiaoxi to open the profound gate with a man. Lei Hong glanced at him. In your dreams. Even if that's the case, it won't help. The only way is to open the profound latch and protect Princess Xi's sea of qi from leaking. Otherwise, even if the profound latch is broken, once the sea of qi leaks, she'll be as good as crippled. Then is there any other way? Lin Muyu was a little anxious. Chu Chu smiled slightly and said, "Little Lin, why are you so anxious for Princess Xi?" Lin Muyu said, "Chu, you don't know, but Tang Bin of Seven Seas City is overbearing. If it wasn't for me and Zhang Wei today, I'm afraid he would have forcefully snatched the Tang sect iron token from Xiaoxi's hands." "So that's how it is." Chu Chu stroked his beard and a glint shot out from his eyes. Seven Seas City is indeed a huge variable in the empire. There are more than 200,000 soldiers stationed in Seven Seas City. They are strong and have many strong generals. Tang Bin, Tang Lu, and Tang Tian aren't easy to deal with either. Currently, Duke Lan is still alive and can stabilize the situation in Seven Seas Province. But if he leaves one day, I'm afraid there will be chaos in Seven Seas City. As he spoke, Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu and said, "You did the right thing by helping Princess Xi seize power. This way, Her Highness will have Princess Xi's help when she ascends the throne. Otherwise, when Her Highness Xiaoyin ascends the throne, the empire will be in chaos before her wings are fully grown." Qin Yin was stunned. "Father's body is still healthy. It won't happen." Chu Chu shook his head and said, "Her Majesty's wind-cold physique is getting weaker by the day. Xiaoyin, why are you deceiving yourself? You're the heir to the throne, and one day you'll be in charge of the empire. There are some things that you should plan ahead of time. Reham and I are still alive, and we're still able to contribute to Your Highness's empire. However, if one day Reham and I are gone, Your Highness can only rely on your peers like Ayu, Feng Jixing, and Princess Xi." Qin Yin's eyes turned red. "Chu, I understand." Lei Hong stroked his white beard and said with a smile, "Chuer, don't scare Her Highness. It's not that scary. I think that although Her Majesty's body is weak, she can at least continue to be on the throne for another 10 years. Moreover, you also saw that Her Majesty conferred the titles of Wind, Rain, Thunder, and Lightning generals yesterday. In fact, it is to help Xiaoyin cultivate her own generals. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin have limitless futures. With the four of them, the empire of the Qin Empire will be half-stabilized." Qin Yin blinked her eyes and looked at Lin Muyu. She suddenly asked, "Brother Yu, you will always be by my side, right?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Looking at Qin Yin's beautiful face, she couldn't help but feel a little flustered. She nodded and said, "Yes, as long as Xiaoyin needs me, I will not leave her." Qin Yin smiled sweetly, and she had a beauty that could topple all living things. Lei Hong frowned and said, "It seems that the matter of helping Princess Xi regain the position of the successor of Seven Seas City is imperative. Forget it, forget it. Her Highness Xiaoyin, please allow me and Chuer to read in the library tonight. How about it? I want to read the ancient books in the Empire's collection. Perhaps if I'm lucky, I can find the method to let Princess Xi cultivate the Firefox seal." "Yes." Qin Yin nodded heavily. "I will write a document in a while, and let the officials in the library let you in." Lin Muyu said, "Shall I go with you? One more person means a little more hope." Lei Hong nodded approvingly. "All right, then you will go with us." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. Thus, they didn't even need to write the document, and decided to go together late at night. The five of them were also destined to spend the night in the library. Late at night, there were a total of 10 stoves in the library to keep warm, but it still couldn't stop the cold wind from blowing in through the cracks in the door. Lin Muyu sat among a pile of ancient books and flipped through them one by one. After entering this world for so long, she basically knew the words of this world, so it wasn't difficult for her to flip through them. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi lit up the oil lamps and sat at the table, reading the ancient books under the watch of the maids. As for Lei Hong and Chu Chu, they were constantly wandering among the books, their brows furrowed. Outside the library, Chu Huaying and the other 21 dragon guards were still waiting outside. The moonlight was cold, and frost appeared on their shoulders, but no one moved. They still stood majestically in the cold wind. All they could do was use their vital energy to resist the cold, but how could the strength of a human body go against nature? In the blink of an eye, all of their faces turned purple from the cold. When the first ray of sunlight penetrated the clouds and landed in Lanyan City, Chu-Chu's slightly excited voice came from the library. Found it. I found it. What is it? Lin Wuyu flipped over and rushed over with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. They saw Chu-Chu holding an ancient book in his hand. 3 words were written on the cover. Jin Pingmei. Lin Wuyu's face immediately turned purple. Chu, did you take the wrong book? No, it's this one. Chu-Chu smiled and said, we might have to rely on you to break Princess Xi's hidden latch this time. What do you mean? Jin Pingmei is a level 10 herb. Combined with level 9 Arhut fragrance, it can be refined into a level 10 medicine called the Perfection Medicine. Do you know about it as a medicine god? Chu-Chu's face was full of excitement. Perfection Medicine. Lin Wuyu was shocked. Chu-Chu continued. It is said that 5,000 years ago, after the great Emperor Crimson Phoenix ascended to the throne, he visited the mortal realm and found a peerless beauty called Chu Rong. However, Chu Rong was no longer a virgin, so the Crimson Phoenix Emperor ordered the world-famous medicine god to create a medicine that could restore a girl's virginity. This is the Perfection Medicine. We can also use this method to open Princess Xi's origin profound latch. Lei Hong and I will use our sacred domain power to protect her qi from leaking. In this short period of time, Princess Xi can cultivate the first level of the Fire Fox seal and drink the Perfection Medicine immediately. This way, Princess Xi might be able to cultivate the Fire Fox seal. Lin Wuyu was dumbstruck. He had no choice but to write the word convinced. He rubbed his eyes and said, All right then, we'll immediately search for the Jin Pingmei and the Arhut fragrance. Damn, this Crimson Phoenix Emperor is also a Virgo with a severe virgin complex. People with OCD really can't afford to hurt him. All right. Chapter 204. Luohangxiang was a very strange herb. It was said to be connected to Buddha, but there were very few people in the Shattered Cauldron realm who believed in Buddha, and they did not believe in the Buddha of Earth, but another Buddha that Lin Wuyu was unfamiliar with. However, overall they still believed in the type of people who lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. I've seen Luohangxiang in the dragon-seeking forest. It's about 2 days' journey from here. Chu-Chu nodded and said, So, I'll go find Luohangxiang. Lei Hong, you stay in Zetian Hall for a few days and protect His Majesty and Her Highness. How about that? Lei Hong nodded and said, All right, then what about the Jin Pingmei? There's no need to look for the Jin Pingmei. Chu-Chu smiled and said, I've seen this herb before. Oh, where? Songnan Province, Governor Hu Tianing's courtyard has a few Jin Pingmei trees. It's winter now and the plum blossoms are in full bloom. It's the best time to collect the Jin Pingmei. Chu-Chu thought for a moment and said, We'll send someone to Songnan Province's Five Valleys city to find Hu Tianing. Who should go? Lei Hong asked. Tang Xiaoxi volunteered and said, Let me go. No. Chu-Chu refused resolutely and said, Firstly, Princess Xi, you haven't stepped into the heaven realm and your strength is insufficient. Secondly, the distance between the imperial capital and Songnan province is long. There are bandits, mercenaries, and people from the House of Chivalry. If there's any mishap, our entire plan will be in vain. As he spoke, Chu-Chu looked at Lin Wuyu and said, You already have the strength of a heavenly king, and you're also one of the newly conferred 4 heroes of Lanyan. You also have a dragon talisman. How about this? You'll replace Princess Xi and go to Songnan province to get the Jin Pingmei. You only need to cut a branch and refine the medicinal essence. Lin Wuyu said respectfully, All right, I'll go. Qin Yin blinked her eyes, wanting to say something but hesitating. Lei Hong frowned and said, When you committed a crime in Silver Fir City, Hu Tianing once sent several thousand elites of the Flying Mount camp to pursue and kill him. Although they failed, Hu Tianing's hatred for you is clear. Moreover, Hu Tianing is Yu's uncle. I suspect that it will be very inconvenient for you to travel to Songnan. At the very least, a single gilded dragon talisman is far from enough. What else do you want? Lin Wuyu asked. Let's ask His Majesty for an imperial edict. Since it's from His Majesty, I believe it won't be a problem to ask for this plum blossom. All right. Chu Chu walked over and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder, saying, You must be careful along the way. Pick another 100 Imperial Guards from the Eagle Nest camp to accompany you. Helping Princess Shi to make a breakthrough is also one of the missions of the Eagle Nest camp. As a commander, you can't go to Cangnan province alone. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and said with a smile, Could it be that Hu Tianning really dares to kill me? It's best to be careful. Chu Chu slowly put down the scroll in his hand and said with a smile, Hu Tianning has been the governor of Cangnan province for many years, and can be said to be a feudal lord. Although he comes to the imperial capital to have an audience with His Majesty every year, as the highest governor and military commander of a province, his arrogance is growing day by day. We must guard against him. All right, I know. I will be careful. All right, prepare you use letter. If there are any mishaps, immediately send a letter to report to us. Yes. The next morning, after a short rest, Lin Muyu set off from the Eagle Nest camp with the Emperor's imperial edict in hand. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the other capable subordinates were all brought along. In total, she brought 20 Imperial Guards and 80 elite Imperial Guards. All of them were cavalry. Outside the north gate of Yanlan City, the royal flag was swaying in the distance. The royal flag was embroidered with a large Qin character. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were there, waiting to send Lin Muyu off. Urging her horse forward, Lin Muyu dismounted and cupped her fists respectfully. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, there is actually no need to send me off with such great fanfare. This will instead let others know. The cold wind caused Qin Yin's princess cloak to flutter. She walked forward and said with a smile. Originally Xiao Shi also said the same thing, but I feel that it is better to let more people know that you are going to Cangnan province, so that Hu Tianning will treat you with more respect. And there is also a bit of truth. Lin Muyu nodded in agreement. Oh right, older brother Yu, I still have a little gift to give you. Oh what? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Qin Yin smiled with dimples and signaled the maid behind her. Bring it over. Yes, your highness. A maid came forward, holding a roll of white blanket embroidered with gold in her hand. It looked very expensive. Qin Yin reached out and held the blanket in front of her chest. Her pair of beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu without concealing her reluctance to part. She smiled slightly and said, Well, this is the snow fox blanket. The golden flowers on the edge were personally embroidered by me. Older brother Yu, your trip to Cangnan province will take at least 3 to 5 days. The wind is cold at night. You should cover yourself with the blanket, otherwise it will be bad if you catch a cold. Lin Muyu couldn't help laughing and said, Xiao Yin is so careful. Humph, what do you think? Qin Yin showed a trace of a little girl's look, pouted and said, You also have to take proper care of your body. Although your physique may be stronger than ordinary people, it is still flesh and blood after all. If you don't take good care of yourself, if you get sick when you come back, won't you still have to trouble me and Xiaoxi to take care of you? That won't happen. Lin Muyu's heart warmed. She hugged the blanket and said with a smile, Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi, don't worry, I can take care of myself. You see how old I am. You two are only 20 and I am 24. I am so much older than you two. If I can't take care of myself, then wouldn't I have lived these 4 years in vain? Qin Yin burst into laughter. Humph, no matter what you say, you are right. At this time, Tang Xiaoxi also came forward and said, Mu, don't just say goodbye to Xiao Yin. I also have something here for you. Oh, what is it? Come bring it here. Yes. Several guards of the Duke's mansion came forward, each of them holding something wrapped in white cloth. A faint fragrance filled their nostrils. Tang Xiaoxi opened one of the packages and said with a smile, Here, fragrant beef loaf, good quality snow rabbit leg, and some fruits to help with digestion. You will need them for your journey. Lin Muyu didn't know what to say anymore. The two girls were really thoughtful, and he was already in tears of gratitude. He immediately wrapped the blanket around the warhorse and handed the meat to Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang. He smiled and said, Thank you, Xiaoxi. You are just as thoughtful as Xiao Yin. Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly. In any case, you should come back early. Just take the official road. You are the royal guard, and there are so many of you. Those mercenaries and bandits won't dare to do anything to you. Got it. Then I will set off. Lin Wuyu flipped over and turned the horse around to face the two beauties. His expression became solemn, and he suddenly raised his right hand in front of his chest. He lowered his head slightly and performed a standard empire military salute. His salute was not abrupt, but there was a kind of calmness and steadiness that came after being baptized by wind and frost. Moreover, he was dressed in the Holy Cathedral's uniform, which made him look even more heroic. In an instant, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hearts were in a mess. Qin Yin looked up at him and said, "Come back early. Let's go." Lin Wuyu turned the horse around again and shouted, "Let's go." The war horses neighed, and the sound of hooves gradually became louder. In the blink of an eye, the group had already left Lanyan City. When Lin Wuyu and the others disappeared into the horizon, Qin Yin suddenly let out a faint sigh for no reason. She felt a sense of loss in her heart. She reached out to hold the Ziyin sword, and felt the fiery holy power coming from the sword. She could not help but feel a warmth in her heart. She smiled and said, "Xiaoxi, let's return to Zetian Palace?" Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance and pursed her red lips. She flipped over and mounted the horse, following Qin Yin. They galloped along the official road. After dusk, there were fewer and fewer people on the official road. Wei Chou asked as he galloped, "My lady, there is a post house 10 miles ahead. Should we rest there tonight?" "No need." Lin Wuyu held the reins tightly and said, "Continue on our way. We will set up camp and rest at 9 o'clock. Yes. Time passed slowly. The sky was already filled with stars. Not long after, it would be 9 o'clock. However, they were in the middle of nowhere. Lin Wuyu raised her hand and said, "We will set up camp next to the forest and rest until sunrise tomorrow. We will set off immediately." "Yes, my lady." The group dismounted one after another. The soldiers of the spiritual medicine department began to cook. Lin Wuyu tied up the war horse and fed it some fodder. She then carried the dragon spirit sword and patrolled around the area to check the terrain. However, it was quite barren here. There were no traces of beasts, let alone humans. This night was destined to be very peaceful. Well, peace was better than anything else. After eating, Lin Wuyu leaned against a corner of the tent to rest. She was covered with the snow fox blanket that Qin Yin had given her. She immediately felt a faint warmth in her heart. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were both attentive girls. Moreover, they were so good to her. What should she do? Although Lin Wuyu was not very sensitive to feelings, she was not stupid. She had to make a choice. On the side, Xiahou Sang was sleeping soundly, snoring like thunder. After some time, Wei Chou suddenly opened the curtain and walked in. His expression was solemn. He pushed Lin Wuyu's shoulder and said, "My lady, wake up." Is it morning?" Lin Wuyu asked. "No." Wei Chou lowered his voice and said, "Our people found traces of a group of people 5 miles away. There are around 200 people and they are heading straight towards our direction. They will arrive within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." "Oh, did you see who they are?" Lin Wuyu sat up. "People from the House of Chivalry." "Oh." Lin Wuyu frowned and said, "People from the House of Chivalry want to attack the Imperial Army again. Have they eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's heart?" Wei Chou smiled faintly and said, "After His Majesty ordered the annihilation of the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province, these people from the House of Chivalry have become more and more rampant. They are even shouting rebellious slogans." "What slogans?" "I dare not say." "Speak." "They say, His Majesty is a tyrant and a fatuous ruler. The Imperial Army is just a group of loyal dogs that should not exist in this world." "Is that so?" Lin Wuyu narrowed her eyes. Naturally, she knew what the House of Chivalry was like. However, since they were so arrogant, there must be someone behind them. Moreover, this person was definitely a schemer. Sometimes, an opponent like Zhen Yifan was not scary. Instead, it was an opponent who hid behind the scenes and plotted against them that was the scariest. "My lady, what should we do?" Wei Chou asked. Lin Wuyu raised her sword and said, "Don't make a sound. Wake everyone up and maintain the bonfire outside the tent. Everyone is to hide in the forest on the east side. When the people from the House of Chivalry come, we will kill them all. Yes. Wei Chao's eyes were filled with excitement. Chapter 205. The snow in the forest had melted, but the night wind was so cold that even someone as strong as Xia Hosang could not help but clench his teeth. He held his sword and hid in the grass. He lowered his voice and said angrily, "This group of rebellious traitors disturb my sleep. How hateful! My lord, should we kill them all or?" Lin Muyu said lightly, "What do you think?" Xia Hosang's eyes flashed and he said, "Kill." Lin Muyu asked again, "Wei Chou, what do you think?" Wei Chou gripped the demon-devouring bow tightly, his eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. His expression was solemn as he said, "Although most of these chivalrous men are commoners, most of them have been instilled with the ideals of the House of Chivalry. So even if we show mercy, they will definitely kill us. In this case, if the Imperial Army shows mercy, we will be the ones to suffer." Lin Muyu sighed and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, "Then kill." "Yes, Commander." The moonlight fell on the pure white cloak of the holy temple. Lin Muyu squinted his eyes. Many people were destined to die tonight. What was he doing? Had he really become a pawn of the Empire? He shook his head. No, definitely not. He had his own judgment and would not be bewitched by others. Here, killing the people of the House of Chivalry was a righteous act. After all, his subordinates, the royal guards, would not bully the civilians. That was enough. The sound of horses' hooves and footsteps came from afar. They were here. Under the moonlight, about 200 people from the House of Chivalry appeared in the forest. They attacked from the west side of the valley. The number of cavalry was small, less than 20. Most of them were wanderers on foot with swords and sabers. Moreover, their cultivation was very average. Needless to say, this was the military strength of a branch of the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province. A wanderer with a scar on his face led the way. He held a long saber in his hand and shouted, "Charge into the camp, leave no one alive." Damn it, these dogs of the Empire, they didn't even send anyone to keep watch. They're digging their own graves. The ranger with the scar on his face had a golden emblem on his chest. He was a Jinzun ranger, but he was not very strong. He seemed to be at the first layer of Earth Realm. Under his orders, a large group of rangers charged into the camp and tore down the tents. They kicked away the bonfire and the soup pot the Imperial Army had set up. They looked incredibly rude and unreasonable. Wei Chou tightened his grip on his bow. He turned to look at Lin Muyu, waiting for his orders. Lin Muyu nodded. Whoosh! An arrow shot out from the demon-devouring bow, directly piercing through Scarface's neck. Fresh blood flowed. A dignified Jinzun ranger had actually been killed by a single arrow from Wei Chou. Fire! Xia Hosang ordered loudly. Almost all of the 100 royal guards were equipped with longbows. Instantly, arrows rained down on the campsite. Screams of agony could be heard. Before the rangers even knew where their opponents were, they had already lost nearly half of their troops. Clang! Lin Muyu unsheathed her dragon spirit sword. She said in a low voice, "Get on your horses and charge." Yes. The Imperial Army soldiers got on their horses and charged forward quickly. With Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others leading the Imperial Army soldiers, they blocked the way in front. All of them had their martial souls, so how could the rangers resist? Lin Muyu swung her sword from above, slicing a wanderer and his shield into two halves. With another wave of her left hand, the dragon spirit sword chopped off the heads of two halberds. As the sword chi continued to wreak havoc, two more screams rang out. In front of them, 7 rangers on war horses raised their spears and charged over. Lin Muyu immediately sheathed her sword. She reached into her cosmos sack with one hand and pulled out the pear blossom spear with a whoosh. She quickly charged over. The spear glowed with a cold light, and 3 snow-white pear blossoms blossomed in the air. At the same time, 3 rangers fell to the ground, howling in pain. Lin Muyu continued forward. She used the spear technique that she had stolen from Zhao Jin. The tip of the spear lightly knocked away the opponent's spear, and the spear directly pierced through his chest. However, this ranger had guts. He reached out to grab the pear blossom spear and roared, "Empire dog, even if I die, I will drag you to hell with me." Lin Muyu coldly snorted and poured battle chi into her right arm. She raised the pear blossom spear horizontally and smashed the ranger's body against the other two. Immediately, screams rang out. The heads of the rangers collided, and their bodies burst open. A thick smell of blood rushed into her nose, and immediately, Lin Muyu almost vomited. She hurriedly activated the wall of the gourd, and a golden light flickered. While protecting herself, she also didn't want to see too many cruel scenes. The battle ended very quickly. When Xiahou Sang chopped off the head of the last ranger, all 200+ rangers had been reduced to corpses. On the other hand, only a few of the royal army had suffered light injuries. It was a crushing victory. Bah! Xiahou Sang spat at a corpse. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, "You bunch of trash want to topple the empire? What a fool's dream." Wei Chou said, "My lord, what do we do now?" Lin Muyu wiped the blood off the pear blossom spear and said, "Search these corpses to see if there's anything valuable on them, then bury them all. We'll set out tomorrow morning." "Yes," Xiahou Sang mumbled. "My lord, why bother burying the corpses of these traitors? In my opinion, we should just leave their corpses in the wilderness and let the wild beasts feast on them. At the very least, we should set up stakes along the way and chop off their heads. This will serve as a warning to those who have rebelled against the empire. Let's see if they still dare to act so insolently." Lin Muyu frowned. "If that's the case, I'm afraid we'll really become the empire's dogs in their eyes. His Majesty Qin Jin is a benevolent ruler and doesn't want to kill too many people. If we act so cruelly, we'll be playing right into their hands." Xiahou Sang was startled. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "This lowly general has not thought things through. Please punish me, my lord." "There's nothing to punish. Get back to work." Yes. Before long, Wei Chou walked over with a blood-stained document in his hand. "My lord, there's something you need to take a look at." "Oh, what is it?" "This is a customs clearance document." Lin Muyu unfurled the scroll. Although it was stained with blood, it did not affect her reading. It was a customs clearance document from Cangnan Province to Lingbei Province. There was even the seal of the governor's office of Cangnan Province on it. Moreover, the clearance document indicated that the target of entry was the 100 people from the House of Chivalry. Wei Chou said coldly, "It seems that this governor of Cangnan Province, Hu Tianning, is really not simple. His Majesty ordered the extermination of the House of Chivalry, yet he still dared to privately issue a customs clearance document to the people of the House of Chivalry. Could it be before that?" "No," Wei Chou said decisively. "The day after the assassination in Deer Garden, His Majesty sent out a letter to announce to the world. But this customs clearance document is dated 5 days ago. No matter how you try to explain it, you can't get away with it." Lin Muyu rolled up the document and stuffed it into her Qianquan bag. She said with a smile, "Just pretend you didn't see this piece of paper." Wei Chou understood tacitly. "Yes, my lord." Hu Tianning was the provincial governor and held the military power of nearly 100,000 troops. This kind of feudal lord could not be casually touched. Just this document was not enough to convict him. Moreover, this time Lin Muyu came to Cangnan Province with a request from Hu Tianning. Even if she wanted to make a move, she had to wait until she obtained the Jin Pingmei. 3 days later, the imperial guards finally arrived at the core city of Cangnan Province, Five Valleys City. Five Valleys City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was famous for its water and rice. It had a population of 2.4 million people. The land was fertile and the population was abundant. It was said that half of the food of the imperial capital Lanyan City came from Five Valleys City. It was precisely because of the products of Five Valleys City that Qin Jin ordered the construction of this official road, known as the Grain Road 10 years ago. Looking from afar, the outline of Five Valleys City was very majestic. Although it was not as towering as the imperial capital Lanyan City, it could be considered to have a different style. The city walls of about 10 meters high surrounded the entire Five Valleys City, and one could not see the end of it at a glance. On the main road, There was an endless stream of merchants and civilians, and patrolling guards could be seen everywhere. When Lin Muyu and the others appeared in the sight of the city, a cavalry team in the city came to greet them. The leader was a man who looked like a scholar, but had a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks. He smiled and cupped his fists, saying, "I am Hu Yang, commander of the governor's office. Greetings, Milord Lin Muyu, the second of the 4 heroes of Lanyan City. Milord's presence in Five Valleys City makes us feel honored. The governor has sent me to welcome Milord." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "Milord is too polite. Commander Lin Muyu has come from afar. You must be tired. Please follow me into the city. Governor Hu Tianning has already set up a banquet in the governor's office." "Okay, thank you." Xiahou Sang laughed secretly. "This Hu Tianning is quite sensible." Lin Muyu turned around and glared at him. Immediately, Xiahou Sang did not dare to say anything more. Along the way, they entered Five Valleys City in a grandiose manner. When passing through the market, they saw many naked girls dressed in alien costumes being escorted by a group of soldiers. There were about hundreds of people. Some were crying, and some were looking at the people around them with cold eyes. Their eyes were full of hatred and anger. Lin Muyu asked with a smile, "Milord Hu Yang, what's the matter with these women?" Hu Yang's gaze swept across and revealed a trace of contempt. He smiled and said, "These are the barbarian sluts of Lingdong province. Last month, there was a rebellion in Lingdong province. 20,000 barbarian soldiers crossed Tianshu province along the Qinling Mountains and attempted to attack our Five Valleys City. However, Governor Hu Tianning ordered the Flying Mount Battalion to attack. More than 10,000 heavy cavalry of the Flying Mount Battalion quelled the rebellion at almost zero cost." As he spoke, Hu Yang curled his lips and smiled. "Well, these women are all barbarian sluts. After they were captured, they were sold as female slaves. They are very cheap. You can buy one for just a few Jin-in coins. Some of the more hot-tempered barbarian women can be bought for just a few dozen silver-in coins. Hey, milord, are you interested in these women?" Lin Muyu shook her head, smiled, and said, "How could that be possible? I'm not that kind of person." "Hey." Hu Yang also smiled. "Milord, you are so handsome. Indeed, you don't need these lowly barbarian women. By the way, Milord Hu Yang, what will be done with these female slaves in the future?" Hu Yang said, "Those who are good-looking will usually be bought by the nobles or the rich to be kept as their exclusive property. Those who are average or below will mostly be bought by the army to be their concubines. Of course, after defeating the enemy, the army has basically captured enough women to be their concubines, so there is no need to buy too many." Lin Muyu was a little surprised. "Is it the rule of the empire to capture women every time they conquer a city?" Hu Yang nodded. "Yes, this is an unwritten rule. Otherwise, the morale of the army will be damaged." "I see." Chapter 206. This time, Lin Muyu did nothing, because he could not save these barbarian girls with his ability, and he could only see hatred in their eyes. Lin Muyu knew that he was not the reincarnation of a living Buddha, so he did not bother to be a good person. Some things were better to let nature take its course. The governor's mansion was exceptionally luxurious, even more so than the duke's mansion where Tang Xiaoxi lived. On the doorpost of the duke's mansion in Five Valleys City, reliefs were carved with real gold. The images of rice, livestock, rice, and fish were vivid and lifelike, symbolizing that the city was famous for its animal husbandry, fishing, and planting, as well as its strong army and horses. On the gilded steps, the provincial governor, Hu Tianning, dressed in military attire, walked down step by step with his hand on the hilt of his sword. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Welcome, Lord Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, to Five Valleys City." Lin Muyu immediately made a military salute and said respectfully, "Lord Governor is too polite, I am flattered." "Ah." Hu Tianning looked at Lin Muyu and smiled. "Heroes truly come from the young. Lord Lin Muyu was just a nameless junior when he left Silver Fir City, but now you've become an outstanding general personally appointed by His Majesty. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Hu Tianning has no choice but to admire you. Come, my lord, You must be exhausted. Follow me to the dining table. Thank you. Lin Muyu cupped his fists, and the attendants led the horses away, while Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others followed with their weapons. Five Valleys City was only the center of a province, and could not be compared with Lanyan City. Moreover, Lin Muyu came with the emperor's edict this time. No matter how strict the governor's mansion was, they dared not disarm Lin Muyu and the others. In the hall, a grand luncheon was held to entertain the distinguished guests. Hu Tianning sat at the host's seat, while Lin Muyu sat at the second seat. Opposite Lin Muyu was a young general of about 30 years old. Judging from his aura, this person had stepped into the heaven realm, and was probably the strongest general in the entire governor's mansion. Come. Hu Tianning raised his cup and said with a smile. Today the distinguished guests have come to Cangnan province. Everyone in Five Valleys City rejoiced. Drink with me to welcome Lord Lin Muyu. Everyone raised their cups and drank in one gulp. Suddenly, a burning sensation slid down his throat. Lin Muyu sat there steadily, nodded and smiled. Thank you for your hospitality, Lord Governor, I am very grateful. Hu Tianning laughed. You don't have to be so polite. Come, let me introduce you. This is General Long Qianlin, who was personally conferred the title of Eastern Suppression General by His Majesty 2 years ago. He is currently in charge of Cangnan Province, in charge of 120,000 soldiers in Cangnan Province. Moreover, General Long Qianlin has achieved success at a young age, and Lord Lin Muyu is also a young hero. We can learn from each other. Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said respectfully. Subordinate pays respect to Lord Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu also returned the salute. You are too polite, Lord. It should be subordinate paying respect to you. In terms of military rank, Long Qianlin was a 4th-grade general, while Lin Muyu was only a 6th-grade general. They couldn't be compared at all. However, the main reason why Long Qianlin was so respectful should be because of Lin Muyu's identity. The emperor's adopted son, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, was enough to match the status of a 2nd-grade national general. Hu Tianning put down his cup and said with a smile. Lord Lin Muyu may not know, but General Long Qianlin has just made an unprecedented achievement last month. He led more than 10,000 heavy cavalry of the Flying Mount Battalion to intercept more than 20,000 troops of the Winter Barbarians at the foot of the Qinling Mountains. He forced the barbarians to hastily engage in battle with the tactic of setting fire to their main camp. He won a great victory, beheaded more than 10,000 people, and lost less than 1,000 of his own men. He can be called a famous contemporary general. Lin Muyu was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile. So the battle to defeat the barbarians was commanded by Lord Long Qianlin? My apologies. Long Qianlin couldn't help but be a little mischievous and said helplessly. Actually, those barbarians don't know the art of war. They don't have any tactics or formations in battle, so I was able to defeat them with the heavy cavalry formation. I'm afraid that any general can do the same. I really don't deserve the title of famous general. I only hope that I can reflect on myself every day and live up to the salary that the empire gives me. Lin Muyu couldn't help but have a good impression of this Long Qianlin. It was reasonable to say that a young man who commanded 120,000 troops should be arrogant and supercilious, but this Long Qianlin was still so respectful, which was really rare. Lin Muyu said, It seems that I really need to ask General Long for advice. I, Lin Muyu, am just a boorish man. I only have strength, but I know nothing about the art of war or the art of war. Lord is too modest. Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said, If Lord wants to ask for advice, I will definitely tell you everything I know. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Thank you. In fact, when it came to the art of war, Lin Muyu had been forced by his father to read Sun Tzu's Art of War and other military books since he was young, so it could be said that he was very familiar with them. The only thing he lacked was the tempering of using troops on the battlefield. Moreover, with his intelligence and wisdom, he would definitely be able to display his strong points. After 3 rounds of wine, Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others were slightly tipsy. Hu Tianning clapped his hands and said with a smile, Bring on the dancers. Immediately, a group of young girls dressed in chiffon dresses slowly walked into the main hall and danced gracefully to the accompaniment of the musicians. They were overflowing with beauty, and these young girls were all carefully selected. In terms of appearance and beauty, they were all top-notch. For a moment, the group of guests in the governor's manor were already staring at them. Using the excuse of drunkenness, they once again began to drink with each other. Lin Muyu remained sober, using the spirit pulse technique to dispel the drunkenness from her mind time and time again. After an unknown amount of time, Hu Tianning drunkenly stood up, his body swaying a little, and said with a smile, "Today is a joyous gathering, and these dancers are all maids trained by my manor. If there are any that you like, please feel free to bring them back to your room. If these maids are favored by you, then I will not have failed you." For a moment, the deputy generals, brigadier generals, and captains of the governor's manor all laughed drunkenly. Some even stood up and pointed at one of the dancers, shouting with a smile, "I want that one, the one with the biggest breasts." Hu Tianning held the table and said with a smile, "Don't be rude. Let the honored guests choose first. Lord Lin Muyu, you are Laozi's honored guest in the imperial capital. Come, among these dancers, which one do you think is the most beautiful?" Lin Muyu stood up, cupped her fists and said with a smile, "Yellow, purple, and green, these three are the most beautiful." Hu Tianning waved his hand. "Did you hear that? The three of you will serve Lord tonight." "Don't." Lin Muyu cupped her fists again and said, "Lord Governor, Lin Muyu has a heavy responsibility this time, so I appreciate Lord Governor's intention. As for these dancers, I'm afraid I don't have the fortune to enjoy them." Hu Tianning was stunned, and couldn't help but burst into laughter. "I heard that Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin have a very close relationship with Lord Governor. Looks like it's true. Lord Governor doesn't like these mediocre women." Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly, tacitly agreeing. Hu Tianning continued, "Lord Imperial Guards, if there are any dancers you like, you don't have to be courteous, feel free to choose." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "The martial arts manual that I cultivate forbids me from getting close to women. I appreciate Lord Governor's kindness." Xia Hosang was already dead drunk. His eyes were drowsy, and his mouth was dry. He looked at Lin Muyu and asked, "Lord Governor, can this general? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. In any case, only she and Wei Chou knew about the customs clearance documents, and it didn't matter that Xia Hosang knew very little. She nodded and said, "If there is anyone you like, bring them back." "Thank you, Lord Governor." Xia Hosang felt as if he had been granted amnesty, and immediately pointed at a group of dancers and said, "The ones in purple and yellow, come together." For a moment, Lin Muyu felt like dying. She held her forehead and thought to herself, "Damn it! Why do I have such a lecherous subordinate?" From afar, Long Qianlin looked at Lin Muyu's expression, and also secretly smiled. As a result, Xia Hosang and the other two imperial guards took away a total of 4 dancers, while the remaining dozens of dancers were given to the high-ranking officers of the governor's office to serve them. Just like Lin Muyu, although Long Qianlin was the highest commander, he rejected Hu Tianning's good intentions. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xia Hosang and the others were arranged to stay in the governor's mansion's VIP room. And after Lin Muyu expressed the purpose of her visit, Hu Tianning very happily said that he would send a bouquet of Jinping plums to the VIP room tomorrow morning. This made Lin Muyu feel relieved. This trip to Songnan province could be considered smooth, and she did not fail her mission. The only flaw was that the noise next door was too loud. Xia Hosang was full of energy, making the 2 dancers feel like dying, so much so that their voices penetrated the wall and directly reached Lin Muyu's ears. "Ah, Lord Governor is so strong. This lowly concubine can't stand it anymore. Watch carefully, I still have more powerful moves. Lord Governor, don't I really can't. Lord Governor, you say that Lin Muyu Lord is so handsome, him or you? Who is better in bed?" "Nonsense, of course my Lord Governor is stronger. If I let you talk more, quickly lie down. I will let you know what is called powerful." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile bitterly. Xia Hosang's words could be considered as loyal and devoted to her. Walking out of the door, it was a bleak winter, and the fallen leaves in the courtyard slowly rolled with the wind. Lin Muyu casually pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and with the help of her tipsy state, she danced a set of wind-riding sword technique. When she sheathed the sword, she heard applause coming from outside. In the darkness, a man came in. It was the general of the east, Long Qianlin. General Long hasn't slept yet? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Long Qianlin also smiled. Isn't Lord Governor also awake? Just now I saw Lord Governor's swordsmanship. It is indeed outstanding, and can be considered to have reached the realm of lightness. My third-rate swordsmanship. Haha, it is not worth mentioning. Lin Muyu laughed, pointed to the stone table next to her, and said, Would General Long like to sit? Yes. Long Qianlin immediately sat down, and asked with a smile, Is it the first time Lord Governor has come to Five Valley City? Yes. What do you think of Five Valley City? It is very rich and the soldiers are strong. I saw those prisoners of war on the street. Lord Governor, are you referring to those barbarian girls? Long Qianlin's expression darkened, and he said, Many of those girls were forced to pick up crude weapons to rebel before they reached adulthood, but in the end, they became the meritorious service of a third-rate general like me. Lord Governor, if I say this, will you look down on me? Lin Muyu was stunned. No. Long Qianlin pressed his hand on the cold stone table, and said with a smile, I don't know how many people died in vain in this battle. I really don't know when the world will truly be at peace. General, are you dissatisfied with the current situation? Lin Muyu suddenly asked. This time it was Long Qianlin's turn to be a little nervous, and he hurriedly cupped his fists and said, No. I dare not, I do not mean that. I just feel that those barbarian girls are also born by their parents, and they are actually the same as us. It is only the difference in culture that makes the hatred between each other irreconcilable. I am not dissatisfied with the current situation, but I am a little presumptuous. I hope Lord Governor can be magnanimous. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It's all right, I also feel a little unfair for those barbarians, but I am powerless. Long Qianlin's eyes shone brightly, and he said with a burning gaze, Lord Governor, if you were me, what would you do to those barbarians? Those who offend my territory, no matter how far away they are, must be killed. Yes, Long Qianlin was stunned, and he actually felt a sense of arrogance and domineeringness from Lin Muyu. Chapter 207. The next day, he held a plum blossom in his hand and carefully sniffed its scent. It seemed to be exactly the same as the Jin Pingmei described by Lulu. Presumably, Hu Tianning would not lie to him. After all, not everyone dared to defy the emperor's imperial edict. After repeatedly thanking him, he led Wei Chou, Xia Hosang, and the others to leave Five Valley City, heading straight for North Ridge Province. The sound of hooves gradually faded. The figures of Lin Muyu and the others had already disappeared on the horizon. Hu Tianning suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and said lightly, Qianlin. Long Qianlin cupped his fists at the side and said, My lord, this general is here. Did you tell Lin Muyu about the barbarian girls and the camp concubines last night? I did. Hu Tianning raised his brows and said, What did he say? Long Qianlin said respectfully, He only said that this matter was slightly unfair, but did not say anything. He doesn't seem like the crazy General Lin Muyu, who can smash the nurturing hall in a fit of anger. A bright light flashed in Hu Tianning's eyes. Not showing his emotions on his face, this Lin Muyu's current cultivation is far from simple as we imagined. I see that his strength is restrained, just like a mortal. This kind of expert is really not simple. In the future, our Songnan province should try not to offend this person. This kind of opponent is too terrifying. Long Qianlin nodded and suddenly said, My lord, there are still more than 700 barbarian girls imprisoned in the camp. Many of them are suitable for marriage. This general thinks, perhaps we should not use them as camp concubines. Instead, we should let our soldiers choose and marry them. They will become soldiers' family members and be raised in Five Valley City. What does my lord think? Haha. Hu Tianning turned to look at Long Qianlin and said with cold eyes, Qianlin, are you really soft-hearted? Long Qianlin hurriedly said, This general just feels that this seems to be extremely unfair to them. As Lin Muyu said, the fate of these barbarian girls should not be like this. We have no right to control it. No. Hu Tianing's voice sank as he said, I just want all of them to join my camp. Qianlin, your literary and military skills are second to none in this world, but you absolutely cannot be soft-hearted. I want you to know that all of this war is just a game of hegemony. There is only benefit and strength, there is no benevolence, and there is no morality. Long Qianlin gritted his teeth, cupped his fists and said, Yes, I understand. Qianlin. Hu Tianing's voice softened a bit. If you have time, spend more time with Xiaoyan. She's your fiancée and my daughter. You can't spend all your time on military training, do you understand? Long Qianlin nodded and said, Yes, sir, after I've collected all the stuffs of the Flying Mount camp, I'll spend more time with Xiaoyan. You can rest assured. Okay. After lunch, they entered the official road and galloped away. Sir, why don't we take out the customs clearance document to interrogate Hu Tianing? Wei Chou spurred his horse forward and looked at Lin Muyu with a puzzled expression. Even if we can't convict Hu Tianing, we can at least give him a warning. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, There's no need for that. If we really shed all pretense of cordiality, this matter may not end well. Moreover, as you can see, the Five Valleys city has a strong army. Their Flying Mount camp is known as one of the most elite heavy cavalry in the north of the Qinling Mountains. The fact that they could annihilate more than 20,000 barbarians with minimal losses is the best proof. Once a conflict breaks out, the 100 of us won't even be enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. As for whether Hu Tianing has any disloyal intentions, it's enough for us to know. There's no need to let him know. Yes, sir is wise. Lin Muyu turned sideways and looked at Xiahou Sang. She smiled and asked, Xiahou, how did the two dancers taste last night? Xiahou Sang blushed and said with a smile, Sir, don't make fun of me. I, Xiahou Sang, don't have any hobbies in my life except for lust. I admit it. Hee, the martial arts of the two dancers are really good. Hu Tianing is really hospitable. He is even willing to entertain us with such beauties. Lin Muyu raised the corner of her mouth and said, Don't think that this is a good thing. As the saying goes, one's mouth is short of food. In the future, you will have something that Hu Tianing can use against you. Maybe one day, this can take your life. Xiahou Sang couldn't help but laugh. Sir, you worry too much. I, Xiahou Sang, am not the kind of person who will be threatened by others. If Hu Tianing really wants to use this to threaten me, I will fall out with him and sleep with him. I don't owe him anything. Lin Muyu gave him a thumbs up. You are really frighteningly honest. Hee. They galloped to the hour of the sea. Snow began to fall in the jungle near Tsangnan province. Although it was not thick, only about 3 centimeters thick on the ground, it seemed to make the weather become colder. Lin Muyu had been observing every movement in the jungle on both sides along the way. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted. Sir, is there something wrong? Wei Chou was attentive and saw that Lin Muyu was acting strangely. No, there is nothing wrong. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, We will set up camp and rest in another 10 li. Yes. After galloping for 10 li, they set up camp and rested in the jungle on the side of the official road. Lin Muyu fed some fodder to the warhorse and urged it to patrol around. Wei Chou, let out the birds we are raising. Okay. Under Wei Chou's order, the 10 imperial guards took the cage from the side of the warhorse. The moment the cage was opened, the black bird immediately flapped its wings and flew out. This kind of bird was different from messenger birds. They were domesticated for the purpose of war, and could serve as scouts. Moreover, the sound of their flight was very quiet and not easy to be discovered. We already have a 10-kilometer radius of detection. Is Sir still worried? Wei Chou asked with a smile. Lin Muyu stood under a huge rock wall with a long sword in her hand. She rubbed the outside of her hand to keep out the cold. After we left Five Valleys City, something has been following us. Ah. Wei Chou was stunned. What is it that we did not discover? It doesn't look like a human. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes and whispered, It looks like a kind of wild beast. I have seen the footprints of that kind of beast many times in the snow. 3 palms, each palm print is in the shape of a diamond. Do you know what it is? Leopard wolf. Wuxia was shocked and said, according to Sir's analysis, this kind of beast is the legendary leopard wolf. It is said that there are people in the Imperial Army who domesticate this kind of leopard wolf, just like taming hounds, but the leopard wolf is smaller and faster. More importantly, the leopard wolf's sense of smell is hundreds of times stronger than that of a hound, and it is very convenient to use it to track. Could it be that there are people in Five Valley City who domesticate leopard wolves? Lin Muyu said lightly. It's hard to say. Wuxia frowned and said, the Five Valley City can indeed be said to have a strong army and strong horses. Moreover, that Long Qianlin is also a peerless general talent. With him in the army, it might not be impossible to tame leopards and wolves. My lord, we might really have our eyes on them. Lin Muyu said lightly. Order everyone to not take off their armor tonight. Sleep tight and be ready to attack at any time. Tie the war horses to the side of the camp, and don't go too far away. Once the scout birds send the news, everyone must prepare for battle. First, find out who the opponent is, and then fight if we can beat them. If we can't beat them, run. Our war horses are all good horses in the western regions. We can definitely outrun them. Yes. It was already late at night after they hurriedly finished the military meal. Lin Muyu did not sleep. She tied the war horses to the side of the central tent and jumped on a high rock at the side of the camp. She reached out to sweep away the snow and lifted her cloak to cover her head. Her pair of clear eyes quietly looked into the depths of the forest in the snow. At the same time, she gradually spread out the spiritual pulse technique. With her current cultivation, she could roughly rely on the spiritual pulse technique to sense the movement within 5 miles, and perhaps it was more useful than the scout birds. After a day of running, she was slightly tired. She gradually closed her eyes and slowly took a nap on the huge rock with her long sword in her arms. After an unknown period of time, an extremely strong fluctuation suddenly came from the spiritual pulse technique. A large group of people with slightly stronger auras entered the detection radius of the spiritual pulse technique. Lin Muyu immediately opened her eyes and flipped down the rock. After she mounted her horse, she came to the camp and said in a low voice, "Everyone get up. Someone is coming." Wuxia quickly rushed out of the camp with his sword in hand and said, "My lord, the birds have not returned yet. There's no need to wait. Everyone, get on your horses and go to the ravine on the west side to prepare for an ambush." Yes. Everyone skillfully mounted their horses and went to the ambush point. The sound of the horses' hooves landing on the snow was not loud. Very soon, everyone hid and covered the mouths of the war horses. Pairs of eyes in the snow looked into the distance, silently waiting for the visitors. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A black bird landed on the back of a royal guard. This royal guard had learned how to communicate with scouting birds. After listening to the chirping of the bird, he turned and said, "My lord, there are nearly 500 people, but we can't confirm where they are from for the time being." Lin Muyu nodded. In fact, her spiritual pulse technique had already detected this group of people. There were more than 500 auras, and the strongest one was about the third heaven of the earth realm. There were dozens of people who were basically in the human realm. The rest were not cultivators and were just ordinary boars. However, with so many people moving together, it was obvious that they were not simple. Don't make a sound. Control your auras and wait for my orders before acting. Lin Muyu said lightly. Yes. First, they had to determine who they were. There was no light in the snowy night. In the darkness, vague figures appeared on the forest path. All of them were riding on war horses, but the hooves were obviously wrapped in cloth, so the sound of the hooves was very soft. This group of people also lit torches, and all of them were silent. They were much more cautious than the people from the House of Chivalry they had met before. Lin Muyu took a closer look, and under the faint light, she still saw the golden emblem on the neck of the leader. However, it was not the Jinzun Ranger, but a chess user. Sure enough, it was the people from the House of Chivalry again. However, this time, it should be the people from the Tsangnan province's headquarters. With such a large number of people, and a chess user personally coming forward. Wei Chou turned to look at Lin Muyu, asking if they should act. Lin Muyu slowly opened her palm, and a golden light bloomed. The gourd martial soul had already come out of her body. She suddenly shouted, "Royal Guard, close your eyes." Hum. The golden gourd soared into the sky, and in the next moment, Lin Muyu activated the special ability of her martial soul, Light of Dawn. A dazzling light bloomed in the dark night, as if it was daytime. Such a strong light in a dark space was obviously not something that a normal person's eyes could withstand. In an instant, a large group of rangers were so blinded that they could not open their eyes, and were in a mess. Whoosh! A bunch of gourd vines broke out of the ground, and directly wrapped around the body of the chess user's warhorse. Lin Muyu raised her hand, and a small magic sonar blade silently flew out. The blade was enshrouded in a dense battle aura, and in the blink of an eye, a golden light flashed, and she became invisible. At the same time she shouted, "Open your eyes and release the arrows. Attack!" Chapter 208. Yu Isher gripped his steel saber, and stared at the air in front of him. He could feel the ripples of air being cut, but he couldn't see anything. He could only raise his saber in front of his chest to block the attack. He felt a sudden chill on his neck, and he felt as if his soul had been stripped from his body. He could no longer muster any strength. Puff! The little magic sonar saber revealed its true form after being stained with blood. It spun rapidly in the air, and the sky beast's soul hidden in the saber quickly evaporated the blood. It became invisible again and slashed diagonally into the neck of another Jinzun ranger. Only the sound of the saber could be heard but not seen. These cultivators didn't cultivate any secret arts like the spirit pulse technique, so they couldn't block the magic sonar saber's attack even if they could hear it. The little magic sonar saber killed 2 people in a row. One was Yu Isher, and the other was Jinzun. This was the first time the recast magic sonar saber was used, and it had already made a great contribution. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Arrows flew everywhere, and in an instant, dozens of rangers were killed or injured on the small path. However, they were still brave. Many of them raised their swords and rushed into the gully, fighting with the royal guards. Kill! The dragon spirit in Lin Muyu's hand fell into the crowd in a beautiful arc, killing more than 10 people in an instant. However, there were too many rangers, and the enemy had mobilized at least half of the main altar's men. For a moment, the two sides were in a stalemate. The royal guard's advantage was their strong individual combat strength. Wei Chou, Xiahou and the others all raised their weapons and killed in the crowd. The other 18 royal guards also did their best. Their martial souls shone in the forest, and at the same time, clusters of torches were lit, illuminating the surroundings and making the battle even more tragic. Both sides showed no mercy and fought with their lives on the line. Lin Muyu wielded her longsword as she galloped past. Her longsword smashed a shield into pieces and chopped off the ranger's arm. Instantly, the ranger howled in pain as he rolled on the ground. Losing an arm in an instant, the pain was unimaginable. At the same time, a royal guard fell to the ranger's messy swords. More than 100 rangers in the back took out their bows and arrows and started shooting from afar. In the blink of an eye, another 7 or 8 royal guards fell to the ground in pools of blood. Buzz! Lin Muyu opened her hand, and the golden wall of the gourd quickly expanded into a wall in front of everyone. The arrows collided with the wall of the gourd, but they could not penetrate it at all. Looking at the people behind her, Lin Muyu shouted, "Quickly clear the area and retreat." Yes. Wei Chou, Xiahou and the others fought the enemy with all their might. In just a short while, the 300-plus rangers behind them had all turned into corpses. However, it was clear that the royal guards had suffered heavy losses as well. Many of them were lying motionless on the snowy ground. With the golden wall of the gourd in hand, Lin Muyu shouted at the rangers who were shooting arrows in the distance, "We are the royal guards of Lanyan City. You have repeatedly attacked us. Are you really not afraid of death?" In the distance, a silver exalt ranger held a longbow in his hand and said with a cold expression, "You dogs of the empire, You have killed so many of our brothers, and you still want to leave here alive? Without saying a word, Lin Muyu opened her right hand and lightning raged. Suddenly, the dragon spirit sword broke through the air and pierced the neck of the Silver Exalt Ranger like lightning. He wanted to continue speaking, but his Adam's apple had completely turned into a pile of minced meat. How could he speak? He fell to the ground with a roar like a wild beast. Lin Muyu raised her hand and caught the longsword that was flipped back to her. She said lightly, "All of you scram if you don't want to be killed." The group of Bronze Exalt Rangers and Iron Exalt Rangers looked at each other. They had already lost their composure. How would they dare to challenge the god of slaughter Lin Muyu? One by one, they raised their longbows and quickly turned and disappeared into the woods. "My lady," Wei Chou urged his horse forward. His face and battle robe were covered in blood. He said, "Do we chase after these traitors?" "No need." Lin Muyu put away the wall of the gourd and took a deep breath to stabilize her restless internal breath. She looked at the corpses on the ground and said, "After they failed their mission, they will soon come after us again. Let's leave quickly. We have already lost a lot of people. I don't want everyone to die here." "Yes, break camp and hurry through the night." They hurriedly buried the bodies of their companions. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes, but 21 Imperial guards were killed. 11 were seriously injured, and 32 were lightly injured. Almost half of them were wounded. Only Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xiahou, and a few others who were above the third heaven of Earth realm were unharmed. But this was enough to make Lin Muyu's heart ache. Although there were more than 7,000 Imperial guards in Lanyan City, too many of them had died in this battle, and they were all loyal and brave soldiers of the Eagle Nest camp. If one died, there would be one less. Even if they were replaced, they would only be new soldiers. Their combat ability could not be compared at all. In the early hours of the morning, the war horses were snorting violently. Lin Muyu held the reins and kept moving forward at a high speed. They had to reach Lanyan City as soon as possible, or the House of Chivalry would not let them have an easy time. At this point, they could no longer rest for the night. After discussing with Wei Chou and Xiahou, they set off at night. If they did not sleep for a day and a night, they would probably reach Lanyan City directly. Sure enough, the House of Chivalry did not have many horses, so it was impossible for them to use cavalry to chase and kill. In this way, they naturally could not catch up with Lin Muyu and the others. After a day and a night of running, several war horses were so tired that they were foaming at the mouth. Fortunately, on the morning of the third day, they could see the outline of Lanyan City in the distance. But suddenly, the spiritual pulse technique once again sensed the dense aura of experts appearing on the road in front of them. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised his arm and shouted in a low voice, "Draw your swords and prepare for battle." "Yes." Xiahou pulled out the spear from the back of the horse, while Wei Chou took out the demon-devouring bow. It was always good to be able to kill a few people before the close combat. After bypassing a cluster of bushes, the aura appeared, but it was not the enemy, but the Imperial guards led by Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, Luo Lai, and others were camping on both sides of the road waiting. "They're here." Zhang Wei laughed and said, "Lady Lin Muyu and the others have returned safely." Feng Jixing hurriedly mounted his horse and greeted them with a smile. Have you been all right?" Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "What happened, Brother Feng? Why are you waiting for us outside the city?" "It's a long story." Feng Jixing frowned and said, "Let's talk on the way." Yes. The Imperial guards all mounted their horses and protected the group of Imperial guards. Feng Jixing and Zhang Wei stood on either side of Lin Muyu to protect her. They all looked very serious. "What happened?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing said, "After His Majesty ordered the annihilation of the House of Chivalry, the local officials and troops did not do their job well. The House of Chivalry became more and more arrogant. 3 days ago, Chu Huayin was ordered to escort a batch of weapons back to Lanyan City from Cold Star City. On the way there, he was attacked by the House of Chivalry. The battle was very tragic. More than 300 Imperial guards were killed, and even Chu Huayin himself was injured." Lin Muyu was stunned. God. Brother Chu was injured? Who ambushed him? How could they be so strong that even someone like Brother Chu was injured? Feng Jixing nodded. According to the investigation, the ambushers were from the House of Chivalry in Earth Star Province. They sent a Grand Travel Agent, 3 Grand Travel Agents, and 7 Jin Zuns, a total of more than 2,500 people to participate in the battle. Chu Huayin brought 700 Imperial Guards with him. The heavy losses were expected, but old Chu was indeed very strong. The price of him being injured was that the Grand Travel Agent of the House of Chivalry was seriously injured. All 3 Grand Travel Agents were killed, and more than a dozen Jin Zun and Silver Venerable were also killed. As he spoke, Feng Jixing looked at Lin Muyu's expression and said, Were you also attacked along the way? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded slightly. I was attacked once on the way there, and again on the way back. They were also from the House of Chivalry, but I didn't lose that many people. A day ago, 21 Imperial Guards were killed. They didn't send that many people, only about 500 in total. If they had sent more than 2,500 people, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to come back. Feng Jixing took a deep breath. Damn, these bastards from the House of Chivalry are trying to slap His Majesty in the face. What do you mean? In the past 5 days, you and old Chu weren't the only 2 troops marching on the official road. There were many other troops dispatched, but only the 2 of you were attacked. Moreover, you 2 are also newly conferred by His Majesty as one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen, one of the 4 generals of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. The intention of the House of Chivalry is too obvious. Killing either you or old Chu will damage His Majesty's prestige. Lin Muyu clenched her teeth and said, The House of Chivalry is now openly challenging His Majesty. They are cursing His Majesty as a fatuous ruler and fabricating all kinds of evidence that His Majesty is a tyrant to confuse people. If we let them continue like this, I'm afraid His Majesty will lose the hearts of the people. Isn't that right? Feng Jixing nodded and said, This matter needs to be discussed at length. We will report to His Majesty in detail when we return to Zetian Palace. Yes, how is Brother Chu's injury? Is it serious? It's all right. A few of his ribs are broken. I'm afraid he won't be able to fight for the next half a month. That's good. He can take half a month off and spend more time with Miss Xinxiang. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Does Brother Feng also think that Brother Chu and Miss Xinxiang will be a couple? Of course. Feng Jixing raised his gaze and said, They are a perfect match. Chu Huayin is my brother. Of course, I hope that he can find happiness. Xinxiang is gentle and kind. She can make old Chu's heart feel at peace. Yes. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Brother Feng, you're not young anymore. Why haven't you thought about your marriage? Feng Jixing was stunned. He shook his head and laughed at himself. I, Feng Jixing, have been living on the edge of a knife all my life. It's better not to be a burden to others. Let's not talk about this. Let's go back to Zetian Palace quickly. Yes, okay. Chapter 209. In the Zetian Palace, purple smoke lingered around the incense burner, and waves of fragrance wafted in the air. There were 2 rows of Imperial Guards on both sides, but only Qinlei was there. Chu Huaying, the commander of the Dragon Guards, had already taken leave to recuperate. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu walked side by side into the main hall. At this moment, Qin Jin, dressed in a dragon robe, came to the throne. He frowned and asked with concern, I heard that you were also attacked. How are you? Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, I'm fine. I only lost 21 brothers of the Imperial Guards. Qin Jin heaved a sigh of relief and said, It's good that you're fine. I can't let 2 of my wind, rain, thunder, and lightning generals get hurt at once. Otherwise, I'm afraid everyone in the world will laugh at me. Feng Jixing said, Your Majesty, the House of Chivalry has been attacked time and time again. This matter cannot be delayed. The Empire can no longer tolerate the House of Chivalry. Qin Jin revealed a hint of anger and said, I also know that the expedition order has already been issued to the governors of the various provinces. But this group of good-for-nothings only know how to receive their salaries, but don't know how to do things. They either say that their generals are sick, or they send troops but don't fight. I really don't know what's the point of raising this group of useless people. This, Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, Your Majesty, in fact, many of the provincial governors and other officials are acquainted with the higher-ups of the House of Chivalry. Some of them are even in cahoots with each other. If we really want to attack them, I'm afraid that it will hurt the interests of these governors. This is probably the biggest reason why they are unwilling to really attack the House of Chivalry. How do you think we should destroy the House of Chivalry? Qin Jin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, Just send the generals to lead the troops to attack them. If the local generals are unwilling to send troops, then we can directly choose generals from Lanyan City. Qin Jin raised his eyebrows and said, It seems this idea is not bad, but there aren't many generals that can be used in the imperial capital. You can be considered one. General Chu Huai is injured, Feng Jixing is in charge of the imperial capital's defense, and Qin Lei has to protect Zetian Palace Hall. The people that can be used, perhaps Yuan Lian and Ling Feng can be considered candidates? Lin Muyu smiled and said, Actually, Feng Jixing's subordinates, Zhang Wei, Luo Lai, and the others are all fierce generals who can take charge of an area. Your Majesty can also put them in an important position. Qin Jin smiled. General Feng, are Luo Lai and Zhang Wei really as you said? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, Yes, if this subordinate is unable to personally lead the army, Zhang Wei and Luo Lai can indeed lead the army to kill the enemy. All right. Qin Jin patted the armrest of the dragon chair and said, Pass down my order. Promote Zhang Wei and Luo Lai to deputy generals. Each of them will lead 5,000 imperial guards to destroy the rebels of the House of Chivalry within 500 miles of Lanyan City. Feng Jixing said, Your Majesty, it is not enough to just destroy the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province. We must send troops to the surrounding provinces around Lanyan City, such as Earth Star Province, Songnan Province, Sea of Qi Province, and Heaven's Pivot Province. We must wipe out the forces of the House of Chivalry north of the Qinling Mountains in one fell swoop. Yes. Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and said, You are the commander of the Eagle Nest Battalion. It is already winter, and your tasks will be greatly reduced. Are you willing to take advantage of this time to wipe out the rebels in Songnan Province for my imperial father? I am willing. Lin Muyu cupped his fists and bowed. He did not dare to overstep his authority by calling him imperial father. With this kind of relationship, it was fine to call him emperor. Lin Muyu knew his own limits and knew when to advance and when to retreat. Qin Lei, who was at the side, said, Your Majesty, the military strength of the Eagle Nest Battalion is less than 1,000 people, but the rangers in Songnan Province have gathered at least 30,000 people. I am afraid that this number of troops is not enough to wipe out the rebels. Of course I know that. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, After the deployment of the Imperial Guard, there are only 20,000 left, and they cannot be used anymore. There are two other armies within the territory of Lanyan City. One is the 90,000-strong Tianchong army, and the other is the 40,000-strong Longquan army that guards the Imperial Mausoleum. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, which army do you think should be given to you to command? Feng Jixing thought for a moment and said, Although the Tianchong army has 90,000 strong soldiers, they are responsible for guarding the Qihai stronghold. I am afraid the deployment of the Tianchong army is inappropriate. Your Majesty should also know that Duke Lan has 200,000 soldiers in Qihai City. If we move the Tianchong army away, Duke Lan's army will be able to pass through the Qihai stronghold and enter Lanyan City without a hitch. Qin Jin took a deep breath and said, This, we also know, but Duke Lan has always been loyal and devoted. He should not be disloyal. Besides, isn't Xiaoxi still in Lanyan City? Xiaoxi is only. Feng Jixing wanted to say something, but stopped himself. His eyes flickered as he cupped his fists and said, This general only has a suggestion. As for the specifics, I will leave it to your Majesty to decide. Qin Lei, what do you think? Qin Jin looked at Qin Lei. Qin Lei did not have so many misgivings and said bluntly, Although Xiaoxi can move freely in Lanyan City, Grand Duke Tanglan has sent Xiaoxi to live in Lanyan City for so many years in order to express his feelings to your majesty. He would rather leave his most beloved granddaughter in Lanyan City as a hostage. This has already explained everything. On the other hand, Longquan army is said to guard the imperial mausoleum in name, but in reality, it is mutually dependent with the imperial army. Together, they guard the imperial capital. Therefore, this general believes that Longquan army cannot be moved. However, the Tianchong army can be deployed for use. Qin Jin smiled in satisfaction. This is exactly what I was thinking. How about this? I will immediately write an imperial edict for you, ordering you to head to the Seven Seas Pass and deploy 20,000 elite troops from General Du Hai. After that, you will enter Songnan province. You must eliminate all the rebels from the House of Chivalry in Songnan province within a month. Can you do it? Just as Lin Muyu was secretly sighing that Tang Xiaoxi's status in Lanyan City was not as glorious as it seemed on the surface, she raised her head and said with clear eyes, I cannot guarantee whether I can do it or not, but I will definitely do my best. Your Majesty, I have stayed in the House of Chivalry for a period of time, and even know the filth of the House of Chivalry. Please rest assured, I will definitely do my best. Qin Jin could not help but laugh. Use words make us very happy. Good, I will immediately write an imperial edict and prepare the tiger seal for you. In addition, I will promote you to be the general of the south, so that you will have the authority to command 20,000 troops. Many thanks, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and at the same time asked in a low voice, the general of the south, just how high is his rank? Feng Jixing laughed in a low voice and said, the rank of the general of the south is much higher than your previous rank of General Long Xiang, and your commanding power is captaincy. In short, you can only command 20,000 people if you wear the general of the South's seal. Otherwise, how will you be able to command the generals under you if they are all of a higher rank than you? Lin Muyu was pleased. I understand. Not long after the imperial edict was written, Qin Jin's handwriting was excellent, and even without the emperor's seal, others would probably be able to recognize it. However, with the golden clay seal, it was even more convincing. At this time, an official handed the general of the South seal and token to Qin Jin. Qin Jin walked forward and said in a low voice, General of the South, Lin Muyu, receive my seal. Yes, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and bowed. She lowered her head and opened her hands to receive the seal. Beside the heavy blood-red general seal, there was a golden general token with the word South carved on it. The seal was too heavy and he couldn't bring it along with him at all times, but this token could prove Lin Muyu's identity and status. He couldn't help but feel a little happy. Perhaps it was because the military rank of the Xiang Dragon General was too low that he didn't even have a seal, but now he could finally have his own identity and status. Qin Lei chuckled at the side. Congratulations to you for being promoted to the rank of captaincy. Lin Muyu replied with a smile. Thank you, Commander Qin Lei. Qin Jin placed his hand on Lin Muyu's shoulder and said in an extremely gentle voice, You, my child, no matter the outcome of this battle, you will always be father's pride. This expedition to the Songnan province is just a chance for you to train your troops. Go, be careful along the way. Father and your younger sister will miss you. Qin Jin was the emperor of a generation, but at this moment, the expression he revealed was actually like a father sending off his son who had enlisted in the army. Even Lin Muyu had an illusion that at this moment, Qin Jin's aged appearance actually overlapped with his father Lin Shun's impression. The same prematurely aged weariness, the same loving affection. I know, father, he said in a low voice. Qin Jin was also startled. He clenched his fists and slowly loosened them. He said, Go, father will prepare a celebratory feast for you at Zetian Palace. Yes. Lin Muyu placed the imperial edict and token in his chest pocket, then led his horse out of Zetian Palace. Feng Jixing and Chu Huaying also sent him all the way to the outskirts of the palace. Wei Chou, Xia Hosang, and the others were still waiting for him, so he brought everyone back to the Eagle Nest camp. He did not know how long this trip would take. There were too many things in Lin Muyu's heart that he could not let go, so after dinner he went to visit Chu Yao, then went to the Duke of Seven Seas' residence to chat with Tang Xiaoxi for a while. Although Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi could not bear for him to leave, after all, Lin Muyu's current status was different. He was one of the high-ranking generals of the empire, and there were too many things that he had no choice but to do. Life was like the billowing waves of the deep sea, and Lin Muyu could not extricate himself from it. He was very clear that he needed to grow and experience, otherwise, if he was not strong enough, he was afraid that a small disturbance would be enough to consign him to eternal damnation. The grudge with the Divine Marquis residence was enough to explain everything. He needed to obtain status and military power in the Empire's army, otherwise he would be worthless. He refined the perfection elixir for Tang Xiaoxi that night, but he did not have the time to see how she completed the cultivation of the Fire Fox seal. Early the next morning, Lin Muyu led Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and a total of 60 Imperial Guards out of the Eagle Nest camp. This time, he did not bring too many Imperial Guards, but he brought all the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu needed this group of people to escort him on this mission. Moreover, would it be successful to use the Northern Ridge Province's army to enter Songnan Province to eliminate the rebels? Probably not. Unconsciously, the image of a person surfaced in Lin Muyu's mind. Long Qianlin, the person with the highest military power in Songnan Province, would definitely not let things go too smoothly for him. After all, Songnan Province, Five Valleys City, House of Chivalry, there were too many connections. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.